Okie dokie.
Up and at 'em!
MAME phase.
Oh, and there we are, and I'd like to say good evening to everybody. This is the first stream in about just over 2 weeks because I've been a bit ill, and it's kind of disrupted my December plans, but I thought with it coming up to the sort of end of the year, I'd do a stream that focuses on sort of a yearly recap, things that have been in the main builds from the last year or so. So there's a few things that happened at the end of last year, but were in the first build of the year. There's a few things that aren't quite yet in yet because there's another build to come, but that's the general focus of today, and generally things that have maybe been highlights for me or maybe things I think people find interesting. So I'm not going to cover everything because there's a lot that's gone in. Not as much as some years, but still a lot. So I'm just going to start by saying hello to everybody who's in the chat. We have an Aussie guy who's one of our regulars, so hello Aussie guy. We have a cow who I'm not sure will be joining us tonight because they've said they're out with their mates or something by the sound of it. We've got a Carlo, we've got R09, we've got Thomas, we've got Evie, my partner, we've got Mr. Guru, we've got Sean Sutton, we've got Mr. Dew, D-E-U, and Devin Acker. We'll be looking at some of Devin's work later, I believe. We've got Charles, we've got Peter Force, we've got Extreme Rec 2000, the Ogre. Welcome, the Ogre. And I think that's everybody. So welcome to you all. It's good to see you. And yeah, so I'm going to be starting off with The Simpsons. And you might say The Simpsons is a game that's been made for a long time. It's not new for 2021, but it's one of those cases where the emulation is always improving. So let me turn the volume up a little bit. I'll actually put some volume back on it because I turned it off to speak. That should do. And let me minimise that. Full screen this. No, that's the wrong order. How to practice. Change my view to the horizontal view and then full screen it. And there we go. Right. So, why have I got The Simpsons on? Well, the main thing is this intro here. For as long as the game has been in MAME, the intro hasn't synced up quite correctly, and over the last few days there was some information provided as to why that might be, and it was an issue with the YM2151's timers. And it's mentioned in the chat actually that, you know, what do I think of the Mister project and the FPGA stuff. The information on what was potentially wrong here came from sort of that FPGA direction, research done there. And the time is meant to be free running, and I think it was stopping and starting in MAME. And so overall the music could end up being about 5% too slow on some Konami games. And this was a notable one because the intro music is meant to finish at the moment the TV screen appears on the intro. I guess like the TV show. And if you look at real hardware videos, you'll see that's the case. And in MAME it wasn't. So if you've been watching, you'll have noticed that's when it stops now. So we'll speed through once more. No. So we'll get the intro back up. But you see, it all syncs better. You'll notice Lisa's saxophone part is at the correct point with the music too. You see, that kicks in at exactly the right point now, and before it didn't. And we will have a look at it in the previous version of MAME, the current version of MAME, because this is a very recent change. This was like went in yesterday, I think. So this will be in the next release. It finishes right there, just as it does on the PCB. Now, if we do briefly exit that and look at it in the old version, which should come up just fine. I will read the chat in a moment. Extreme Rec, impressed that they synced it at all. A lot of arcade games had good sync. It's why it's also important to use the correct refresh rates and things. But the music is ever so slightly too slow on this. And it sounds wrong once you've heard it correct, but yeah, you can't unhear it now. Note how late the saxophone kicks in there. And the music doesn't stop when the TV comes up, it carries on a little bit. And it seems like it might be correct because it does finish at the exact moment the track demo starts, but it's not correct. It's meant to finish at the exact moment the TV comes up. So that's how it was in older MAME versions. We're not going to play it in older MAME version because that'd be a bit pointless, but I just thought I'd show it for comparison. But that is the first thing I wanted to sort of highlight today, because that's a very recent change, and that doesn't just affect Simpsons. That affects Salamander, Life Force, I think Super Contra. There's a whole bunch of Konami games that had the wrong timing. The Data East Captain America games also marked as improved by it, although I don't know if that's just the same thing, or if that improved before and has just now been flagged. But, yeah. Anyway, this is it's one of the things that people will never unnotice now they've seen it. It's a bit like the Contra barrels, which we'll look at in a bit. So, yeah. I mean, the game itself, there might still be a few timing issues because of the Konami CPU emulation. It's got its own timings versus the CPU it's based on. But overall, you know, this is a classic game, and it's really good to see the intro now properly in sync. It's no, the TV. It's meant to be silent when the TV screen appears. It's meant to finish just before. If you look at the real PCB videos, that is exactly when it ends. So yeah, as most people will know, it's probably better to play the two-player version of Simpsons if you're playing on your own, which I failed to do here. Otherwise, the character is controlled. Depends on which set of controls you're using, rather than letting you choose it. So I'm using player 1 controls, so I am Marge on the 4-player set. If you want to avoid that, just run the clone instead. But you know, I'm mainly demonstrating the intro sound here. I'm not going to be spending too long playing the game, as good as it is. But it's one of those famous Konami beat-em-ups, along with like the X-Men and a few of the others they did. You know, Vendetta and Violent Storm, and they've got quite a few, haven't they? In fact, we may end up having a little look at Vendetta 2 in a bit, because that is another one that's had a fix, although maybe not the fix you'd expect. And that's another one where the fix isn't in the current release yet. So this is not meant to be a demonstration of what is to come, but it may in part be that. I don't know if the intro has changed in the timing on the TV screen and the TV show over the years. But, you can easily find a PCB video that confirms the new MAME timings for the intro are correct. The old ones were not. But yeah, it's not the deepest beat 'em up in terms of how it plays. But I think the whole Simpsons license really sold this game. It captures the feeling of the cartoon and the characters pretty much perfectly at a time when the show was hugely popular, and probably one of the best Simpsons games out there. Actually, I mean, I know everybody loves Hit and Run, but this is just gets it right. There are plenty of bad Simpsons games too. I think the Simpsons movie game was all right for a modern game, but it's probably overpriced in many places now. It was an early sort of PlayStation 3 generation game. Yeah, I am just credit feeding this. Hey, Pietro or Pietro, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce the name, but welcome. Hope you're doing good. Is that the same on both the PAL and TSC versions, or is that a localization problem, Extreme Wreck with Genesis Scooby-Doo? Yeah, the 2151 is used by a ton of things, you're right, RO9, so who knows what has been fixed. Or, hopefully, nothing's been broken, because that's always the issue when making a change like this that could potentially affect, hundreds of games, is hoping that it didn't actually break anything, but it fixes a lot of Konami games, and that strongly suggests the change is correct. And hey, main fan, welcome. And you watched the video of a guy complaining about the intro not being synced up, the Arcade 1-Up intro. Yeah, Arcade 1-Up's probably based on the previous MAME knowledge and the previous timer code. I don't know what exactly they're using in terms of emulator. I'm assuming it's some version of MAME, but I'm not sure. But yeah, they're not going to be using the latest, and they're definitely not going to be using the version that hasn't been released yet. So again, emulation improves all the time, and a lot of the time products like the Arcade 1-Up are never going to benefit from that, because they're always going to be based on something older, or discoveries are going to be made after they've been released, and they can't just easily update the software on them. So it's one of those things. You find it with a lot of commercial emulation products. We've talked about sort of some of the 1942 ports and how they have the wrong Capcom logo rendering, and it's always going to be like that. But yeah, The Simpsons, I think we're seeing it. Let's just put that intro on once more. So, and this is the fix I'm demonstrating, is the intro timing. And once we've done this, we can start to have a look at another game, because I don't want to sit and play through the Simpsons game, because once you're in game, you're not really going to notice the timing as much. But the intro, this is where you notice it. Hey Vision, yeah, the intro timing's improved. Hey Bob, we may have a look at some of your progress in a bit, Bob. Something to do with Grandad or something. See, and when the Konami comes up, the music is finished. That is how it's meant to be. So that is now much better. Hey Wolfaz, welcome. Is it a boring Friday? I don't know. I started a bit early today because there are other streams and other Christmassy things I want to catch up with myself. I thought it'd be a nice busy day. But anyway, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Ed, okay, let's switch to something a little less traditional. Now we're going to go for the no window view. Look, the whole CRT screen has gone, which might give you a clue as to what we're going to look at now. So this is another very recent change, and I believe the person responsible is in the chat. This is the CTK 551, a 1999 Casio keyboard, and you see it's got a nice sorry, I meant to run that with a different video system, so it doesn't try and do any effect on the screen. So there we go. Now there's only one. I mean, this does have the video set up so that you can use the clickable artwork. So you see, I'm clicking on the. You can't see the mouse pointer, but I am clicking on the different notes right here. But there is a different reason we have got this set up, and that is so that I can press Song Bank, which again you can't see, and I can press 09, and then I can press Start. This is not R09, this is just 09. And yes, Devin Acker in the chat, I believe, is the person who's been doing this, along with Olivia doing the artwork. And Pietro wants to do the 2164 for the DX100, which already has a skeleton. It'd be nice to see that, actually. And yeah, there are a whole bunch of Christmassy songs on here. So we've got Silent Night as well, you see. I think it was Devin anyway. I believe it was. The different nickname is sometimes confusing, but if I'm wrong, correct me, but I think it was Devin. This song's too slow, so we can turn up the tempo. Far better. But yeah, MAME does a pretty good job of these, to be honest. There's a few that work quite well, like this one. There's some that are still skeletons, as mentioned. But how is this possible? It's no different to, say, emulating a Game & Watch or something like that. It's just a machine that uses segment displays and has a CPU. Although in this case the CPU is a bit more advanced than, say, the Game & Watch ones. So what else? 11 is Christmas tree. Yep, Devin. I thought so, because I know you use a different nickname for the submissions, and sometimes I get them all mixed up. But yeah, and the sample decoding, I believe, was one of the funky parts of getting this one working. It's a custom Casio sample format that I think there was information on the patents, from what I remember, that you found and managed to figure it out from there. But yeah, they've been working since for quite a while. They don't always get demonstrated, but when they've got nice artwork like this, it is always good to be able to bring them up. And you know, this one's got a few Christmassy songs on, so why not? Yeah, is this the one that was based on an H8 or an ARM? It's just got a custom Casio name on it. But yeah, what else we got? I don't think they're all Christmas songs. Saints Go Marching In. We do have the Star Wars theme, which is maybe why I have to mute the stream playback, but you know. This is the weird custom H8, yeah. So a lot more work than maybe people would think, because it wasn't a standard version of the processor. It had all sorts of customizations, different opcode encodings. So a lot of work to get it running, but it does run well, and it's really good to be able to demonstrate these things. So there we go. Yeah, this might be where the DMCA comes in, so we'll probably stop the Star Wars music right now. There are a few things in the stream that may end up getting cut out of the playback later, but we shall see. We shall see. Right, where should we go now then? Shall we do the one of the ones that everybody knows is coming for these streams, because we've played a fair bit of it, and I don't know if Cow's still around, but yes, Namco's Final Lap, or Final Lap R in this case. The Final Lap games have seen a lot of improvements over the last year, maybe none as much as Final Lap R, which was missing an awful lot of the background rendering before. So it's quite quiet actually. So I'm going to turn this up a bit because this is a quiet one by the sounds of it. I can't even remember what the volumes are. So let's go to Germany. Hey Cameron, you want to thank me for all the hard work, and you appreciate my efforts. As I've always said though, I mean, if we didn't have people using the project as well and people testing things, it would all be for nothing. So I'm not doing this on my own. Everybody matters, but you know, the kind comments are appreciated. Yeah, this looks like a proper game now. You've got all the backgrounds and everything else. I still can't drive, but still need to fix that line at the bottom of the screen, because that doesn't happen on hardware. I've actually been looking at it, and I do wonder if it's something odd, like in line mode it still uses the original scroll coordinate for the first line, and then the list is offset by a line or something like that. I really don't know, because the game still does populate the usual scroll register, but also populates the line table. So I'm just wondering if the first scroll register is the first line and then the line table is every other line. But that seemed to disagree with some of the other games using the chip, and I really don't know. I was looking a bit at Speed Racer again earlier, but that one's a nightmare. I'm completely out of practice again on this after not playing it for a while. But yeah, I think this is one of the highlights of the year, because until the improvements that were made this year, this looked like a really weak game for the time it was released. In fact, it's a nice step up from the older Final Lap games. Obviously it's not quite on par with the 3D races that were very quickly the thing at this point, but still, it's a respectable looking game with some actual nice graphics, plenty of scenery. It's actually impressive that it's using the same sprite chips as, say, Suzuka 8 Hours, although I guess maybe the better processor is allowing them to use a lot more roadside objects. You missed all the notifications, Mo. Maybe that's YouTube being funny because I've not streamed in about 2 weeks, and suddenly, you know, I'm probably a lower priority to notify people off or something. But, welcome, Mo, and welcome Mick as well, and for missing it, welcome Night Trap as well. Have I got a MIDI compatible keyboard? No, I don't, unfortunately. I am not a musician. And welcome Mess Drivers. I think I already said welcome Mess Drivers, but welcome. Yeah. So if you hadn't seen this with improvements from the last year, then this is how Final Lap R looks today. And we'll probably look at some of the other Final Lap games during the stream. I don't want to spend too long on them because I had to sort of play them every time there was an improvement earlier in the year. So regulars to the stream will have seen a lot of Final Lap. Oh dear, I'm doing worse this time than the first time. It's very difficult to know. I mean, when you're using a big, chunky steering wheel, it's very different to trying to control on a mouse. I think this one's actually easier to play on keyboard than the older Final Lap games. It doesn't spin out quite as much, but you've still got to be quite tippy-tappy and gentle movements. But yeah, it was nice to improve this one. It's just a shame that Speed Racer is such a pain. Although with Speed Racer, at least now we've got the zoom feature on the tire map viewer, which allows me to far better see what is in the tyre ram on it. And I can see that it's only using 3/4 of the time up area and expects the time up to wrap at the 3/4 mark, which is quite odd. But then even implementing that, it doesn't seem to wrap in the right place on Speed Race. So it needs work, but at least I can see the data in tire RAM seems valid. If you let off the accelerator on corners, it won't spin out as much, says Mr. Guru. Yeah, I think that's what I probably learnt last time I played it, but it's been such a while since I played it. It's I've kind of lost the technique I had. Let's give it another credit anyway. Let's go to Belgium. You've seen enough of Final Lap. Yeah, I think most people have. This will be the last credit I play on this Final Lap game, Aussie guy. You can... Oops, not paying attention. You can... If the layout's got a zoom view, you can zoom Pietro, but if it doesn't have a zoom view, you can't zoom. It's a case of Olivia added a zoom view to the artwork. You can't pan it, unfortunately. MAME doesn't offer that feature, at least not yet. I mean, there have been improvements to the artwork system, layout system, over the past year. But it doesn't have the functionality to pan and zoom everything right now. Any kind of stream-based panning is done in OBS. So yeah, I'm doing even worse than last time. Probably because I'm talking, but you can see it looks rather nice. I wanted to see if I could improve Speed Racer for the stream, but I could not. I got nowhere with it. Yeah, I don't like these games personally. I like seeing them well emulated, but I don't like playing them. Not even in the arcades. I'm not much of a racing game person. I'm really glad to see them working though. I'd say they look good. I'm surprised by how good this looks with everything emulated. It's not the only racing games we'll be playing, because there have been quite a lot of improvements to racing games over the last year. Not just Namco ones either. So we'll be definitely playing a few more racing games. In fact, we might play a racing game next. Probably not the one anybody's expecting. So yeah, Final Lap are one of the highlights of the year in terms of improvements. But we will quickly move to a very different racing game. And we're going to be looking at a rather obscure Japanese computer that was emulated. So this is the Gundam RX-78, a machine from Bandai in '83. That looks like a 60s version of the circuit rather than a 90s version. I wouldn't know, but I have to take your word for that, Wolf has. So this one, it doesn't sport much of a title screen. It boots to this. It's like, do you want level 1 or level 2? I think backslash, or is it the hash key does level 2. I can tell it I want 2 laps, and I can press spacebar to start. Yeah, the machine was named after the Gundam anime. It's quite an odd thing to name your machine after, but it was. So, here we have a basic racing game for the computer. It was released in Japan. And I don't really know what I think of it. I don't think I streamed this one already, because it didn't work properly when it was initially added. Your car does tend to slide around a bit on corners, make it very difficult to avoid anything. It's a little bit Monaco GP-like in the sense that you're basically just racing along, overtaking cars that are trying to get in your way, rather than being any kind of race simulation. But it's got corners. You can tell it's a bit flickery whenever it changes the view. No, I don't think this is a TMS 9918 Pietro. It appears to be its own video hardware, which is kind of one of the things that makes it more interesting. I mean, because all the TMS 99 games tend to look very similar. I don't know how you pick. Maybe you just have to drive there slowly. It does tell you can. Like, restores your top speed again. I think there's only the one circuit, so it's quite a limited game. As on many of these crashes now 8. Is that 2 crashes in one? Or can it just not count? So yeah, now my top speed is 220. So I think it goes down every time we crash, unfortunately. Unless you pit in. And your fuel goes down, and yeah, this is pretty much the game. This is on the second difficulty level of the 2 levels. I've selected 2 laps, which I think I might complete. It's more challenging if you select 6 laps. But look, I'm not going very fast now, so it's a bit easy to avoid things. But that's because my car is kind of wrecked. Maybe extreme wrecked. And there, the race is complete, and I ranked number 41. So yeah, until 2021, MAME didn't emulate the RX-78. I think there was one other emulator, but there was basically no software at all dumped for it. Maybe maybe one game at most, and it's like most of it's on cartridge. There's some stuff on tape. But one of the big things that happened during 2021 was seeing a whole bunch of these RX-78 games dumped, and I think they're all unique games that are only on the system. And hey, from Aeneas, welcome. It's good to see you. Good to see you. It's a bit like Sega's Turbo. Yeah, a very basic version of Sega's Turbo, but Aussie guy. But that's it. I mean, I've shown what there is to show with that game now. We can have a look at maybe some of the other games that were on the system. But they're all pretty basic. I mean, this is Hamburger Shop, for example. So it'll go around until the Hamburger Shop is open, and I think at that point you can start the game. It's got the most horrible music ever, and really, say that person wants fries, so you wait until fries appear, and then get the fries. I can't remember what the button is. So when the fries appear, and it's just a case of waiting. That's the worst part. There's some fries, we pick up the fries, put the fries on the table, and he drives off. Can it run Doom? Probably not. This person wants an ice lolly. I assume that's what that is. So, get the ice lolly. Oh, the dog stole the ice lolly. That happens sometimes. So you avoid the dog. There we go. Get the ice lolly again. Put the ice lolly down here. There's lots of engines on systems where you can make games without knowing coding. I don't know a specific Game Boy one, a Big George. But I did run plenty of such programs on things like the Spectrum. So yeah, apparently there's some roulette wheel bonus round after a while on this, but the fact you're just waiting for the right item to appear with a very annoying tune. This game, again, it's unique to the system as far as I know, but it's barely a game. The ZX Spectrum runs something called Doom, but it's more like Wolfenstein. See, the one item I want is just not appearing. There we go, eventually. The main music isn't worth pausing, it's so... Oh, I forgot what they wanted. I think they wanted some coffee. You don't pay attention, yeah, and they wanted a big burger. That wasn't that one, was it? So if you bring the wrong thing, they just don't take it. Did you want this one? Yeah, you wanted one of those. I think it was one of the bigger burgers, so I'll just wait for that. It's called GB Studio, is it? It has support for the pocket analog. I'd assume it would have support for the pocket analog, because the pocket analog is just meant to be a FPGA-based Game Boy, isn't it? If the software didn't run on that, I'd be a bit of a concern. But anyway, I think when you get to 1,000 points, you get a bonus and it gets more difficult. But otherwise, this is tedious and the music is really annoying. And I'm glad it's emulated, but I don't care much for it. We'll do one more Gundam game because we're not spending much time on them. The Gundam RX-78 had a Gundam game. So there you go. Just buggy, or just I just subbed and wanted to say thank you for all your work you do in the community. Thank you. Well, thank you to you as well. I mean, if you're using MAME and paying attention to what we do, you're a big part of it too. I always say that. You know, if I was doing these streams and this work and absolutely nobody was paying attention, it would be much more difficult because, you know, I wouldn't know if what we were doing was right or if I'd introduced bugs or anything else. So it's always good to have a community and users. So this is more of a shoot 'em up. And I guess this was possibly one of the flagship games for the system, given that, you know, the system is named after Gundam. It's quite tricky. These bullets fly at you at a fair pace. Now there are quite a few games dumped for the system. I know Gaming Alexandra did a bit of a write-up of it. Now you can find out explaining a few aspects of how to play them. Some of them have quite complex controls because the original system had a keyboard overlay. But some of them are easily playable like this one, which is really just shoot things. Big robots. As a result, this one also seems to be one of the better games. It's following a very simple, well-known formula. And the background sings a little bit, but again, we're mostly just doing the same thing. Can you play the... I'm not going to play Saturn games today. I might be able to play some another time, but the problem with the Saturn drive is the performance is kind of bad at the moment, so I've been avoiding it. Yeah, the wasted food at that restaurant in the previous game was something astronomical. Yeah, they did make a lot of things nobody wanted. It's a good death animation, isn't it, Mo, in this one? Is there a tennis game on this console? Interestingly, there is, and that was the fourth game I had on the list to briefly look at, which is a more recent one. It's Excite Tennis. Interesting that the Excite name is used on a lot of plug and plays as well, but I don't think this is related to the Epoch Excite games. So let's just turn the window on. Amateur or pro, I don't know. I've selected something. It's not a very good tennis game. That was a bad hit. I had a feeling of Balloon Bomber, the previous game. Yeah, it did a little bit. Frogs and Spiders. I think it's hard to put my finger on why, but yeah, I know what you mean. Lots of enemies moving at fairly unpredictable directions. Mobile Suit Gorf, yeah. So you can only swing once on this, and if you waste your swing, you can't swing again. So you have to get your timing exactly right. Now I'm at the back, aren't I? No. Now this kind of looks like, to me, Konami's Ping Pong, but as a tennis game. It's got the little crowd animations and some similar sort of sounds. But unfortunately, it's really not nice to play. I've never managed to hit the ball back even once in this, so I don't even know if I'm doing something completely wrong. Sounds like the Intellivision. Oh, what is the sound hardware? The sound hardware is an SN76489A. Is that what the Intellivision has? I don't remember. Oh, yeah, that's the... maybe there's more controls to this. This is also possible that I'm only using like half the controls here. Yeah, I've never managed to hit the ball back. So that is tennis for the RX-78, and we're not going to play any more RX-78 games today. But, yes. There's still a ton of undumped obscure software. There is R09. I'm really glad to see this software dumped. I mean, most of it's not great to play, but if it hadn't been dumped, it would just get lost. And the last thing we want is things getting lost. So, you know, Intellivision is AY3, is it? So it's not the same hardware as the Intellivision. I'm surprised it sounds so similar then. Yeah, if Nintendo got tennis right. Bandai did not get tennis right there. That was not very playable. Hey Robert, PL, hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Right, so yeah, we talked about Konami bug fixes. Let's have a look at one of them. So Contra, Konami's 87. Not so classic arcade game, because everybody likes the NES version better. It's going to be loud, isn't it? So I'll turn my volume back down. And this is another where research from the FPGAs has, you know, really helped, because it was discovered that the Konami multiply divide chip was not hooked up in Contra. Hey Zantar, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. You hope to see some progress on the 3DO M2. I don't know how if the Konami M2 platform driver could be modified to run them or not. I really don't know. Not an area I've looked at too much. So Contra, it's a Konami game. This still does have a few bugs in MAME, and even in the FPGA implementation, with stray sprites on the continue screen that even they haven't managed to figure out yet. But the bug that I want to look at that was fixed over the course of the year is when you get to the 3D stages. And again, this is one that many of the official units you can buy get wrong because they're based on the old knowledge. You know, the awful My Arcade thing is just based on a bootleg old version of MAME. Yeah, the continuous sprites unfortunately still get left behind. I'm not sure why. That's not what we can do. I'm sure that's the worst anybody's ever played the first level of Contra. But these 3D stages are where it was improved. If you note, enemies firing at you, they fire in the correct directions now, and these mines that roll down the screen also roll in the correct directions now. So this is one of those quite big improvements to a classic game that happened over the course of the year. So you see they're all rolling straight down the screen. Previously they just veer off to the side, and it made the 3D stages too easy because you wouldn't ever have to avoid the mines unless you intentionally stayed on the left hand side, the right hand side of the screen, because they just roll out of your way because their movement is done, the calculation with the multiply divide chip. So when it wasn't returning the correct results, the game just made all the mines roll off to the side because it thought that was where they were meant to go. Here we go, you see, now they're coming at me, and same with some of the shots. It would be nice to get to the bottom of this countdown issue, but say that's for another day. This game is hard. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I don't just suck at all the games. Maybe this game is just hard. I don't know. You seem to need quick reactions. You need to be paying attention, not trying to read the chat. I mean, I've never been a huge fan of it. Yeah, until... Yeah, the problem is I want to roll like you do in Blood Brothers, Cabal and the like. And instead I'm jumping into the bullets. I'm trying to play it like wrong game. Again, you've really seen the fix now. You've seen the 3D stage fix. And like many of these little fixes, it's one of those, once you've seen it was wrong, it's very hard to go back to a version where it was wrong because you'll always notice it being wrong. I said the same about the Simpsons intro sync earlier. Exactly the same type of thing. Once you've seen the glitch, you're not going to unsee it. Do the recent console releases have the countdown? I've not checked Vision. So I know the awful My Arcade thing does, because it's just a bootleg of MAME 2003. But I don't know if the others do, or if they patch around it. I know the FPGA stuff still has it because they couldn't figure it out properly. know some of the new releases seem to be based on knowledge we don't have, but I don't know if all the Konami ones are. I noticed some of the Jellico ones are much better than MAME still is to this day. At the end. Well, you got to see the 3D stage bug fix, and that's all there is to show on Contra. I mean, other than that, the emulation hasn't changed, but those 3D stages, the mines do now roll as they're meant to roll. You didn't think the title was a very wise choice, Wolfaz? You know, it was. I never saw an issue with the choice of the name back in the day. And it's a name that's done well for Konami, and most people know it by the name Contra now, not the you know, the old modified titles that they used in some regions. But I don't know. Lots of games had different names in different regions. Some of them are even more difficult to understand. Like, I never understand why there's a version of the Sega SDI game called Defense. It's not clear where that version was released. Yeah, that was Contra, and that is one of the cases of a little bug fix that's, you know, kind of significant. So, where shall we go now? Let's look at some stuff that I may end up cutting out of the video later. Now, this isn't so much that there was progress, but there was some cartridges dumped. Unfortunately, Sean seems to have become very busy in the middle of dumping them and didn't get around to dumping all the ones I sent. But let's move this about. So the Juicebox is an old video player device with some atrociously encoded video and audio. So yeah, so look at the quality of the video here, and you get the idea. It's not great, is it? I don't know how you skip forward. Yeah, whatever. But you see, the audio is awful, the video is awful, you know, everything about the video encoding is kind of awful. So, yeah. Anyway, we're not going to play too much of these because obviously they're TV episodes and music videos and stuff like that. But I wanted to show the video encoding, and it's kind of bad. So, you know, you can have a look at that one, or even worse, we could have a look at, say, this one. One of the big things they did with these Juicebox devices is they put a whole bunch of fast action videos on them, and it really doesn't work. I mean, look at, you can't read the text. What's this lower line text says? You can't tell because it's the encoding's so bad. And then you've got fast action things like, you know, basketball, where everything is so pixelated and lacking colour. You can't tell what's going on in these videos. So, yeah, this is pretty bad. But a whole bunch of cartridges were dumped over the year. And previously there were only like 2 cartridges dumped, and you couldn't get an idea if the machine worked too well. But yeah, the machine runs. The cartridges that are dumped properly run. The cartridges are kind of unreliable. A lot of the ones we've found have got bad blocks on, which will cause the video to skip in places. But here again, you can't possibly read the text on the screen in most of it. It's just bad. So
welcome everyone to Hawaii.
Yeah, it's a bit like real player quality. I mean, it's awful resolution, awful encoding.
Along with Ken and Martin, here's the third and final stop of the band, Triple Crown of Surfing. Along with the final
I feel sorry for
stop
anybody that actually, you know, had one of these back in the day.
Last stop, the World Champion.
But yeah, it's far worse than Sega CD, unfortunately, Bob. It's just nasty. I mean, it was a cheap little kids device. But the fact they've gone for fast action sports, music videos with loads of flashing effects, as a large chunk of the library doesn't work. For the cartoons, it just about works because they don't need the detail. They're not fast moving colours. They're just solid blocks in a lot of places. But for a lot of the other stuff, it's just nasty. Really, really nasty. You had a video now. Was that the CD based one where we've not managed to dump any kind of internal ROM? Because there's clearly must be an internal ROM in one of the devices on the video now, but we've not found a way to dump it, unfortunately. But yeah, so that was one of the things. I'm glad to see some cartridges dumped. There's a whole library of like probably another 20 that aren't. They didn't have that many because the thing was a massive failure. But and you know, it's a bit strange because you've got like 1 or 2 episodes of cartoons and not the whole series, and I don't really know. I don't know what they were thinking, but obviously they thought there was a market, and that market quickly got blown away by other people doing it better. I guess phones starting to play videos and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, the video now uses mini discs. The video now is worse, was it? I would have thought it would be better if it actually used CDs, because that was like trying to encode videos into sort of 16 meg cartridges. Hey Rebecca, welcome. Hope you're doing well. So this is Mrs. Dynamite. Now this is probably one of the better and more interesting discoveries of the year, and it's potentially a prototype. It seems very early in terms of, you know, the game idea not fully developed maybe. We had a look at this when it was dumped, and it's a fun little collect dynamite and blow up the monsters game. So you lay your dynamite, you blow up a monster. If you blow up more than I think 3 monsters with 1 stick of dynamite, you get an extra life, which is an unusual mechanic, but I've not managed to do that. And don't get crushed by barrels. Oh. Got 2. Yeah, the Shrek carts play alright in MAME as long as you overclock the Game Boy CPU. There's a lot of Game Boy Advance games that run too slow with the way MAME's set up. So yeah, you do have to collect the dynamite in the maze here. But yeah, the Game Boy ones, the Game Boy Advance ones actually looked alright. Much better than... So I've not got any dynamite at the moment, that's why it's beeping at me. There is dynamite left in the maze, which means I've not failed yet, although I need to get to it. Oh, and I got crushed. Mr. Do and Mrs. Dynamite. Yeah, unfortunately, this is the only appearance of Mrs. Dynamite. There were no crossover games, and you know, it's entirely possible, as I said, that this was never even released. So this is sort of one of those could have been lost parts of Universal's history. I did better at this when I was had practiced a bit after it was first emulated. One of your favourites, a good pre-Bomberman game. It is. It does have elements of Bomberman. Before Bomberman came out. I do like the way you have to pick up the dynamite as well. And there are all sorts of conditions in the game, like if there's no dynamite on the map yet, it leaves emergency sort of super dynamite. It's not as simple as it looks, while still being quite a simple idea that maybe could have done with a bit more to it. You can see the number of enemies in the top there that get moved down to the actual map. But yeah, what you really want to do is try and group the enemies and get them all at once. Or at least 3 of them once, and not get crushed by barrels. Uh-oh. Now, unfortunately, you can't crush enemies with the barrels, and that strikes me as really, really odd, because you know, the barrels crush you, but they go straight through enemies. I don't know if that's sort of, again, because it's potentially an unfinished version of the game. I mean, the checksum on the ROM does fail, which is kind of odd, so it could potentially be a bad bit in the ROM, but I think it's more likely just the game wasn't finished at this point. Mr. TNT. So yeah, I've used up all the dynamite in the map, so I've got to wait for the countdown. At which point this super bomb appears, and if I can get that, not do that. Okay, we're not even going to get to see the cutscene at this rate, unless I no cheat somehow. Okay, more lives it is. Yeah, I would say there was quite a strong influence from Warp Warp in this, you're right. Warp Warp does have its own Bomberman round. think even the way the enemies are shown at the countdown, that's kind of warp-like as well, isn't it? There we go. So I got 3 at once, which is an extra life. That is the only way you get bonus lives in this game. It's unconventional. Do I think Shrek looks beautiful? I mean, I can't say I've ever considered Shrek in terms of beauty before. Are you saying you want us to have a look at the Shrek game? Or the Fiona game? So apparently I suddenly got better at the game, or just luckier at the game. Famous last words. Yeah, the barrels crush your dynamite too. So basically the only thing the barrels don't crush are the enemies. And that is counterintuitive, I have to say. Oh, Shrek is an ogre, that is true. I mean, maybe the ogre is Shrek and we've just not been made aware of that. Maybe the barrels don't crush the enemies because in testing the enemies had a tendency to crush enemies or something silly. You never really know with these games. I can imagine it being reported as a bug if the enemies tended to wipe out the enemies. And there we get a little cutscene with the locomotion playing. Again, it's the only cutscene in the game. It doesn't change. It'll play every sort of 4 rounds or so. Sometimes the music plays, sometimes the music doesn't play. Again, feels kind of like it might have a few little bugs in the game. But no, I think at this point you've really seen what the game has to offer, other than the Super Dynamite thing I didn't get a chance to fully demonstrate. Yeah, I do quite like Mr. TNT and Zorkans that is based on Pietro, or whichever one's based on the other one, because I think it's the same company that just sort of reworked their own game a little bit. I can't remember if it's Gorkans or Mr. TNT where the ROM check fails and it might be a bootleg. Again, we really don't know with these things. Until more boards show up, a lot of the time we can only guess. Oh dear. I wonder when Go-Go Coaster is going to get found. I do too. That'd be a nice one to see. Without the Mr. Do license, it's sort of one that I've often hoped would show up, especially to see if there's sort of any differences in how it plays, because sometimes that's the case with these early versions. Anyway, so you've got a high score table. I'll put 3 letters. I've got plenty more letters I could have used, but there we go. So that was Mrs. Dynamite, and I think that was one of the highlights of the year, really seeing that found and dumped, because until it was found and dumped, we'd only seen little photographs of it, and it wasn't quite clear how it would play, and turned out to play a little Bomberman warp like, but it's also its own thing, a little like pirate ship, whatever it's called. No, I try to be polite with my high score names, Extreme Wreck. So have I missed anything in the chat? Possibly, because I've been trying to pay attention to the games, but okay, maybe not actually, maybe not. Maze Games got surprisingly elaborate later on. They did. I mean, I quite like Mr. Kicker, which is one of Semicoms. Alberto asks, is the Thunderhoop black screen in stage 4 fixed? Yes, it is. It is. I mean, we could play it. The problem is getting to stage 4 in Thunderhoop is a challenge. You'll probably be playing it for half an hour. But yeah, that is fixed. Maybe we'll do that one later. I don't think I can really jump straight into that one right now and play it. It will take a while. So, where should we go next? Now, horizontal view. Now, Bob in the chat has been working hard on adding pirate NES mappers and all sorts of things to the NES soft lists, including 7 Grandad, which is a hack of the Flintstones game with a Mario sort of character. No level select cheat. I've not looked for one, Bob. Oh, you mean on Thunderhoop? There is, but if you use the level select cheat, it bypasses the crash anyway. Because the fun thing with the Thunderhoop protection, which is why it would crash on level 4, is that it does the checks earlier in the game. It does the actual protection check on the stage 2 boss. And if the stage 2 boss protection check fails, then it crashes the game on stage 4. So if you use the level select cheat to go straight to... I know, I got this extra life in Tessia, haven't I? If you use the level select cheat on Thunderhoop to go straight to stage 4, you bypass the stage 2 protection check and therefore it doesn't crash. It's a very devious check. What it's actually checking on Thunderhoop is the refresh rate. It measures the timing of a frame, and if the refresh rate is not around 57.4 Hertz, then it crashes. So yes, for some reason, this specific Mario hack has a massive following and loads of videos about it. Well, I say Mario hack, Flintstones hack with Mario in it. I mean, it's a hack of a fairly solid Flintstones game, just with a Fred Flintstone Mario character. It's quite a lazy hack though. I mean, it's not even changed the name of the character at the bottom to Mario, but it still says Fred. The cutscenes still refer to the Flintstones. It's really just a very simple title screen and sprite hack as far as I can tell. But I don't know. I'm not very good at it, because it's not one I've really played before. Yeah, some people made it a meme somehow. I think there are more meme-worthy games than this, to be honest. But, you know, we don't control those things, or, you know, what people make into memes. So move on to this platform. Rather than, you know, falling to my death. Oh, I fall to my... Oh, no, I managed to do that. It's a bit Prince of Persia with the hanging off the platforms. If we're talking caveman games, though, I'm always going to prefer Chuck Rock, I think. Though, to be honest, I can't really complain about... This is a Flintstones game. It doesn't make sense as a Mario game, but not, most of these hacks don't, to be honest. Now, I'm sure this isn't Bob's proudest moment in terms of emulating the NES hacks, or maybe it is, I don't know. But if you want to thank Bob in the chat for getting this one working in MAME, then feel free to do so. There are some others that I would have liked to play, like the Titanic one, but I don't have all the sensors set up, so it's a bit tricky. Oh, I'm not very good at it. You bought every bootleg with Mario in it because the real games were hard to find, Wolfaz. That kind of makes sense. Again, that's what the bootlegger was doing. The people would go, "Oh, it's Mario. You know, we'll have to buy it, even if it's just some hack." I mean, Bob's added other things too. There's some recent NES games, for example, this one. That I think this is from. Is it 2017? Gotta Protectors, Amazon's Running Diet. Yeah, 2017 by Ancient. So this is a run-along collecting up. I'm not really sure. It seems a bit like Wonder Boy with an oversized sprite, but very well animated for a NES game though, isn't it? And again, Bob added this to the soft list. I don't know if this required any specific macro emulating. cake bad then? Or is it just a case of collecting everything? Don't grab the cakes. Oh, okay, so jump over the cakes basically. The game is essentially fan service and excellent. Yeah, you have to know the controls though. No, that's wrong. This was just a soft list edition. If there's any specific ones where you actually had to put work into the mapper, let me know. I just thought this was one of the more impressive looking ones. Yeah, I mean, the game's going to be very basic with this type of size character. But still, it's you know, it's good looking. You can tell it's a modern, nice development. 80% of the ROM base is probably sprite. Yeah, it's probably a bit like Strikers 1945 Plus on the Neo Geo, where sort of 80% of the ROM space is that intro. Which... let's ignore how terrible I am at this. Well, I don't know what's meant to do there, unless I can jump over them. You like big sprites and you cannot lie. Well, there's a falling bomb, apparently. There you go. A lot of the ROM is also the pre-baked power lights. Yeah, I'd say these modern... well, not modern, because they were using them back in the day. These little tricks to make the hardware look more capable than it was. Kind of fancy to see, but there you go. I'm a sheep, apparently. There you go. I had 59 cakes. But that diet was not successful. Oh yeah, it's a fun little one to look at. Was just an addition. The game will be banned now. It's from 2017 ago. It's quite a recent one. I don't think it will be banned this quickly. So anyway, okay, where shall we go? Where shall we go? Should we look at one that was added right at the end of the previous year, but was in the first release of the year? We shall do. I think this is Namennayo, which is by Cats, which is a fake manufacturer, a fake name for another company, which Aussie Guy has pointed out before. But this is some game, an unlicensed game based on sort of famous Japanese delinquent cats and the like. Sort of runs on a bit of a clone of Galaxian hardware, but with a few extra features. The stream is not meant to be just meme-worthy games. It's also meant to be, you know, progress that's in main builds from the last year. And this was in the first build of the year, although technically it was submitted at the end of the previous year. But yeah, if Bob did have any suggestions of streamable NES games that I should have looked at instead of those two, feel free to mention them, unless you have and I missed them. Yeah, Bob has been busy doing a lot of work on NES and the NES Office. I really should remember to jump. Okay, up is jumped. I'll remember that. Yeah, I've got to get somewhere in this game because there's the cat animations that we have to at least have a look at. Bob. Well, so I've just not been very well over the last sort of 2 weeks. I've not even had much time to felt like doing much preparation or anything. So I've not been looking at as maybe well as I could for things to stream. You can just drive through the radars. You've got the police chase bit where we have to drop a bomb, which we failed to do. This game has a peaceful vibe to you. It's not so peaceful once you start the chase scene there. Or the ice scene. That's ice. It might be pink, but that's ice. Believe me, that's not nice. Pac-Man cutscene opening music. I've not noticed Pac-Man music. We can have a look at a Pac-Man thing shortly. If you've been paying attention to the channel, you will have seen I uploaded a brief video of it. It's not properly emulated yet. It might not even make the next release because it's a bit of a hack. But we'll see. So I do actually want to complete a level in this before we move on. And I know I can. I'm not that bad at this game. I've seen motorcycle riding cats, being chased by the police. You have to get the timing there just right. First game with a police car chase. Don't know. I mean, probably not, but I can't say for sure. I'm doing really badly here. There we go. I got the police cat, and we get that kind of odd cat animation, and then I probably die because, or not. To be honest, I didn't think I'd launched the bomb there, but somehow I got the police cat. I might have glitched the game or something, because you can glitch this game at times. I didn't before. And there we go. Obviously we're in England now. I'm not going to complete the stage though. Anyway, you get the idea. It's a silly vertical scrolling dodge things, drop bombs to stop the police, and get to the end of each stage. There's what, about 5 stages. The graphics change a little bit. It was a very expensive PCB, ridiculously expensive, and a lot of people thought it'd never be emulated, but it was emulated in the first build of this year. So what am I missing in the chat? Don't mess with me, don't screw with me. Is that Namennayo? Yeah. The game screams doing illegal activity. Escape from the UK. That might be a good idea. But you think the sound's annoying, Carlo? Cats is a fictitious trade name for Dyson Shoji. Yeah. And it also plays Nico Vanjata. I think we should put Dyson Shoji in the description name, actually, because it's still not listed, is it? I'm pretty sure that's confirmed, and it probably helps to actually put the real manufacturers in there when they're known. Anyway, where shall we go next? Okay. Yeah, okay. Now this one was promoted to working, although in my personal opinion that was probably a little premature. This is Operation Tiger by Taito. So this is the 4th game in the Operation Wolf series. Apparently it's set in June 1990X. It's Operation Tiger. That's a really underwhelming screen, I have to say. Sort of strikes of 90s pre-rendered. Now I don't think there's sound emulation, although I can't remember. I think it said there isn't. But this is sort of the 3D entry into the series. And it is playable now. I don't know if I have to recalibrate the gun or if it's calibrated from last time I played it. So we'll find out. I can go up. I can press the start button. Yeah, the VHS style warning screen. So yeah, there's no sound yet. And it does, so it's only running at 70% speed, so frame skip unfortunately doesn't help. Oh. So I'll keep it on frame skip 0. My PC isn't quite good enough. But then there's slowdown even beyond that in the game. Maybe it's waiting for a sound status and the sound CPU being unemulated is not helping. So we can skip that. And we can, you know, just go forward with this and we can shoot people. You can see every time I shoot somebody, the game just sort of pause. So I think for that reason, it probably shouldn't have been marked as working yet. But that's sort of not my decision to make. Yeah, my calibration's a little bit off too. I seem to remember that last time I tried to play it. But, you know, until this year, this one didn't work at all. You know, you might be able to boot it, but it wasn't playable in any sense. And it is sort of playable now. So it doesn't quite meet my personal bar for a working game. But, you know, it's a big improvement in what it was. Looks like a clearer GoldenEye. I mean, it's on rails, so it's not quite GoldenEye. But no, there's no sound emulation at the moment, which surprises me because Taito sound system's usually understood, but maybe there's good reason in this case. Yeah, it's a gun shooter. I think analog sticks rather than true gun because it's not flashing the screen at all. I still don't think any game in the series really topped the original Operation Wolf. Thunderbolt wasn't bad. Operation Wolf 3 was a disaster. This kind of exists. It's very typical for what games were doing at the time. You know, your Virtua Cops, I think House of the Deads and things like that. Time Crisis did a bit more than this. It's just your on-rail shooter. I guess they were fairly cheap to produce because, you know, you've got no real control over the game other than the gun and choosing the odd path change. You see, you see similar games on previous generation of consoles. The Wii had quite a few, and I think, say, they were quite cheap to make because you don't really have to account for the player doing anything unscripted. It's just a case of, yeah, here's some stuff to shoot it. Here's some more stuff to shoot it. And that's it. Very limited in terms of the assets you have to create and the testing that needs to be done. And we do have a missile, so let's just use that on the helicopter. Knowing Taito probably uses some obscure, overpowered setup. Yeah, it probably does, but I thought most of those were emulated. But maybe this is some other one. I mean, say it is playable, just not quite full speed, and there's all these little speed drops. Oh, you can hold the fire button on this one, can't you? You don't have to keep clicking as I'm doing. I think I found that last time, actually. I don't think we're going to spend too long on one that doesn't have sound emulation. Look the barrels. Maybe. Not. Probably close to Type 0. See, I thought the non-Power JC ones, like Side by Side, did have sound, but maybe the Power JC has a different sound system. Because it doesn't seem like Power JC and JC are actually that closely related, apart from in name. So you pick a path there, you see which way you want to go. So that's where you some degree of longevity with the game comes in. So what are we on? I'm on 1 hour 20 minutes. But okay. Don't want to spend too long on this without the sound though. It's one of those games where no sound to set the mood just makes it a bit boring to play and watch, I guess. Plus, you know, it's telling me I need to upgrade my PC. So I probably do need to do that. There you go. Operation Tiger does actually run now. You can actually kind of play it. And it kind of works. Let's go with some awful Atari. Now, a lot of people seem to think this looked quite good when I showed it off last time. This is Danger Express from Atari. Personally, I thought it was awful. Another uncommon game on Galaxian hardware, Monster Zero. Yeah, we might have a look at Monster Zero in a bit, Aussie guy. That is definitely one of the ones from this year that now runs. A bit quiet, isn't it? It's still quite quiet. Oh well, I'll just have him turn it down later. So, there's your levels. Maggots stand no chance. And it's a little bit like Guardians of the Hood put into the screen. And it doesn't play well. I mean, you do have 3 buttons. You can shoot, you can duck, and you can jump. Although, the use of jumping in the game is very limited. There aren't many situations where it's actually useful. You sort of jump on things, but the shape of everything is odd. They're very. Most of the objects in the game are as 2D as they look. The Z collision plane seems to be about 2 pixels, so jumping is a very limited use. So we're going down the alley and we've got to catch up with the train, which is the express part of the game, which is horribly underused. And hey, Mr. Out of Heaven, I don't think I said hi to you yet. Welcome, I hope you're doing well. It's the next generation of the Zoom sound system. I don't know how far off MAME is from emulating that. I do suspect some of those slowdowns might be waiting for sounds though, because I've seen that on the Taito games. So this you get the different coloured weapons, but there's not much difference between them. The blue one electrocutes enemies, but in practice they just they don't change much. The second player has the chainsaw. It might be flashing a chainsaw, but the first player does not get a chainsaw. Only the second player has the chainsaw. It's Atari's 90s Atari junk, but it was emulated last year. Let's just fall off a train. See, even that's not a satisfying falling off the train animation. The initial wobble is, but then you just go. Bleh. Oh yeah, that's where you meant to duck, not jump. Those things approach so quickly you don't get much chance to. More 90s Atari jank is never a bad thing. It's certainly interesting to see the direction they were going. I mean, again, like all the stuff I'm covering in this video, I'm really glad it is emulated, even if a lot of it, if we're honest, is not great, because especially if we're dealing with prototypes and things that haven't been discovered yet, a lot of them were forgotten or not released for good reason. And that is the case for so much of what gets added or, emulated or more recently. Except, I mean, it's more cases where there are bug fixes in MAME that are potentially more interesting to look at, because you're often dealing with good, well-known games that actually are now emulated better than they were before. But a lot of these prototypes, yeah. Oh, I actually used the jump successfully to jump over some barrels. It's almost like I'm playing Donkey Kong, except I know it is successful. Everything Atari did in the 90s is why Atari fell flat on their face. This is one of the most annoying things too. At this point, you can't move beyond the middle of the screen, so you can't get close to these enemies. You have to use the range attacks on them, which again makes no sense when you've just been playing the rest of the game, able to go as close as you want to an enemy. Garuka Devastators from Konami is slightly better than this. That's another one that's not actually emulated properly yet, though, unfortunately. The collisions on it are still wrong. I think G.I. Joe is also a slightly better take on the inter-screen thing. Konami also have Spy, SPY, which has levels similar to this, but that is actually probably worse. Spy doesn't know what it wants to be. problem is this perspective does not really work for a beat 'em up. Yeah, this is rare for a reason. The sprite work is not good. This whole digitized look was not a good one for Atari. I know it proved popular with things like Pit Fighter, but it's aged really badly, and to be honest, I don't think it looked great at the time. What is continue? That one. Yeah, I mean, I'm always glad to see it emulated, but you can see exactly why it didn't get released. It's not satisfying to play. It doesn't look good. And, you know, cheesy bosses don't save it. I think we've seen probably enough of that one. And I'm going to take a brief pause. I'll be back in a... Okay, that's better. Sorry, I just had to take care of a delivery, so I am back now. It just reminded me at some point I need to make a Be Right Back screen because I still don't have one and it's been almost a year of streaming. So anyway, I'm back. So what has the chat been saying? The perspective doesn't work well for anything. To be honest, I'm not sure I can disagree. There aren't many games I can think of with that perspective. And it just limits the amount of screen you can use too. I mean, maybe it works for driving games, because there are many good behind-the-camera driving games, but it doesn't work for beat-em-ups and the like. There's still some sort of Atari around, yeah. Not really anything to do with the old Atari, but they are still around and trying to take people off money in all the wrong ways, from what I've heard. Anyway, Infogrames did Hostages. Infogrames, the original company, are pretty good. Yeah, they did Hostages and things like that. But Infogrames today, aka Atari, not really. Anyway, so what's up next? Yeah, let's look at some work in progress. Now, I've been doing a lot of these bits of plug and play work. I don't know if this will be merged before the release. The pull request is harmless, but a bit ugly. But this is the basic fun mini arcade Pac-Man. Now, this does run too quickly though. I don't know how the game is meant to limit its rate, and the Fix It Felix one is even worse. I don't know if it's trying to send the CPU to sleep or if there's a bug in the opcode. Now, you do have to press start twice. You have to press it on the title screen, then you have to press it here to actually start the game. And that's true to the real unit. But you can see it's running about twice as fast as it's meant to run. And this is a very recent port of Pac-Man to a little mini arcade thing. And considering when it was released, it's a bit underwhelming. It gets a lot of things wrong. The ghost movement is incorrect. There's this double-sized dot there for no apparent reason other than their artist must have been terrible. And you notice sometimes when the ghosts come out of the box, they'll slide diagonally, and it's just kind of, considering at this point Pac-Man has been emulated for years, you can use the original Pac-Man as a reference. It gets most things wrong. It doesn't even have the proper Namco fonts. Then if you game over, it doesn't go back to the title screen, it just goes back to this screen where you can press start to play again. Now, I get that the idea of the product was it was just a bit of a novelty. It's a Pac-Man cabinet, mini Pac-Man cabinet. It wasn't meant to be a proper version of the game, but why not do a better version of the game? Also, the controls are really laggy, but that might just be because it's running too quickly. Because in Fix It Felix, the controls don't work at all because it's too fast. If you set the refresh rate low, it does work. But it does have the cutscenes, although they're a bit off, like everything else in this. Again, considering how good some of the ports of Pac-Man were to plug and play units, years ago, the Jack-specific ones done by HotGen, for example, it's really surprising to see how bad some of these ones are. NES suggestions, Super R and Starverse. Alright, we'll have a look at those probably now, because yeah, you notice I've hooked up the controls in this since I made the brief little video the other day, but until we sort out the speed issue, it's not very playable, and it's probably not going to be a Pac-Man game of choice, even if it was. It's just, surprising. They could have done so much better, but I guess it was done cheap. That double-sized dot on the right-hand side there still really annoys me. It's like, how? You can see it on the original footage as well. It's not a MAME bug, it's not an emulation bug. That one there, it still only counts as one, but anyway. So yeah, a recent mini-system TAT, maybe you should say. MAME also now runs games like Battle Kid, but it's not in the soft list. Why is it not in the soft list? Maybe it should be in the soft list. So let's go back to NES for a bit then. And Bob is suggesting Super. Apparently Super must be Super. Does it run on NES or do I need Famicom? We'll see. This game is for adults only, 18 plus. Maybe I'm not running it. It said adults only, Bob. That doesn't sound suitable for streaming. But we can have Starverses by Dustmop in 2014. So what is this? This is one that Bob has recently made work in the NES soft lists. Single player. It's a bit loud. It sounds like a good soundtrack, but it's a bit loud. I'll test the other one off stream and see if it's suitable, Bob, but I'm not playing something that immediately tells me it's 18 only on stream. It's still a bit loud. Sorry. Just getting the volume right on this. Right, okay. There's a tiny random chance the guy will say the F word. Maybe not worth the risk of upsetting YouTube. So I can choose... I'll choose the all-round ship then. No need to... So it's asteroids-like. Tapping the button does nothing, holding it down fires. Shoot those. Asteroids where the enemies take multiple hits and don't split in two. That's what I'm getting from this so far. Also where you can't shoot the actual asteroids because you can't damage them. Also where sometimes you get a massive sword for no reason I can understand. In fact, I don't know what's going on in this game. Beyond the basic shooting of things. In fact, there's a lot of shots on the screen. What's the worst game I've had the misfortune of playing? I've played a lot of bad games, I don't know. Asteroids Danmaku Edition. A little bit Aussie guy. I mean, I'd quite like to see Fantasy Zone Danmaku Edition. That's one I'd really like to... Oh, what's going on now? What? Lasers. It's a bit different. It's mixing things up. So, say this is a recent NES game. I guess, was this on cartridge or is this just one that was available for download? Sometimes you get the wider shots. Do I have to tap it? No, I don't tap it. Do I let it charge? It's not quite clear how the fire mechanic works to me. At least not yet. Well, you can hold down the other button to not rotate when you move. Okay, that's interesting. You can also turbocharge straight into things. Looks like a C64 game. Yeah, it does have that. I think it's got that sort of European art style. I'm not understanding how how I'm doing some of these special moves. Like sometimes it does a sword out my ship. I don't know what that's all about. Is that a time thing? This on cartridge. Unique new boards. Yeah, there's something I'm not understanding the game mechanics in it though. Because sometimes I do that wavy sword thing. Other times I'll charge forward. Other times I do the three-way shot as the first time I fire. Is it really set? So if I just tap it, it does a mine. If I press it, it does that. If I hold it, it does that. But then what's doing the turbocharger does sometimes? Because, you know, I charged straight into something I didn't want to. Button combos. So it's probably a case of read the manual. It's a nice little concept. So yeah. So this is a unique mapper, a new mapper that Bob emulated. So unlike the previous ones that might have been visually quite impressive or, you know, meme worthy, this is one that Bob had to put a bit more work into getting running. Obviously, other NES emulators probably already emulate it, but you know, MAME has to keep up with these things and emulate the mappers, so it's always good to see this kind of work in MAME. Yeah, the Sonic on the C64 that's coming out looks really, really good, based on the Master System version. Cave should do an Asteroids. I say they should do a Fantasy Zone type one. So up does that, okay. I don't know what does the dash. Up does that. Which I don't know if it is useful. Okay, I can kill that with double tapping up. Or maybe not just once, maybe lots of times. I did a charge there, although I'm not sure what I did. Maybe me. Yeah, it's a case of learning this one, isn't it? Super Roulette was the hard one. This one was pretty easy. Alright, well, say I'll check Super Roulette off stream. I might do a stream where I'm allow games with a bit more swearing, or, you know, a few other things that maybe I wouldn't usually consider at some point, but I try to keep these other ones family friendly. So yeah, that was one that Bob improved on the NES. I'd say it looks pretty fun. I might have to give that one a try off stream, even though Extreme Rec is calling Asteroids Anxiety Attack Edition. And Mr. Guru would play Asteroids, rather play Asteroids on the 2600. I don't know, I thought that one was pretty good, Guru, but yeah, tapping does the close range attack. I don't know what does the charge still. But anyway, Oh, let's change to our non-CRT view and bring up Super Cobra by Gakken, the green version. I don't think this is entirely on the screen right now, so anyway, how do I resize this? Let's get this somewhere reasonable. There we go. So, this is one of those LCD games, and it is Super Cobra, or VFD games, maybe more correct in this case. MAME's been emulating a lot of these over the years. You'll have seen recent years. You'll have seen me covering the Game & Watch bits and pieces. I'm not going to do any specific Game & Watch or Game & Watch clones today, even though there were some clones done recently, because I've been having performance problems with all of them for some reason. However, this one seems to run fine. You missed Final Lap. Oh, you did, cow. You did. So, instead you get to see Gakken's Super Cobra. Me not knowing how to start a new game in it. Can you start a new game? It's only got... Do I have to reset to start a new game? Yeah, maybe I have to reset to start a new game. Gakken also made Jungler LCD. I don't know if Jungler was emulated this year or not, though. Or if it was emulated the previous year. I think it's emulated. I don't know why I had to reset to start again then. That was a bit odd. Maybe that's just how it is. Maybe you power cycle the real unit or something. Obviously this is not a display of fantastic visuals or anything else, but it's a good example of how you can make a game without having any kind of fancy technology at all and still actually get something playable out of it. Obviously I'm avoiding the square things. It's looking like a CRT test at the moment. Now those ones are fuel, as you find in Super Cobra. The others are the missiles. I mean, if you played Super Cobra, you can roughly approximate it to what you see here. I think this might still be better than the what system was it? The Casio systems, the PV1000 or the 2000 version. Scramble Anxiety Attack Edition? I don't know what you mean. But again, there have been quite a few of these electronic games emulated over the past year, so it made sense to have a look at least one of them. And I flew into a missile. That was clever. You do have to use your imagination a little bit with them. But again, yeah, once you die, nothing seems to actually restart the game. Unless the button missing, because there's two buttons, up, down, left, right, and that's it. The only thing that works on this point is an F3 reset. I don't know. I don't have one of these, so I have no idea. Yeah, it's more playable than the Tide games. You're right, Cal. It is. It's always fun to see how much they had to scale down the original game to make these things. It is alright now. That's sort of the charm of them, is seeing the changes that were necessary. Right. We have... We're not that far into the stream, actually. There's plenty of time left. See, I'm never sure what to actually play. We can have a look at something quite silly again. This one was surprisingly popular when it was added. This is Miss Pac-Man Twin from Argentina. And this is a hacker of Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, that adds 2-player simultaneous support, which is really quite silly. And it's full of bugs because it's badly hacked and a complete mess in terms of code base. But you see, you've got your 2 different Pac-Man characters or Miss Pac-Man characters eating their own coloured dots. And yeah, the programmers definitely didn't consider things very well. And there are lots of situations where you can leave the game in a bad or unwinnable state, or yeah, you can tell it's a hack rather than anything original. But it's one of those that shows that you know, Namco could have potentially done something like this officially, but chose not to. And I think people would have really liked it if they had done. If you try and control both characters at once, it becomes a bit easier. Now you can see, as you see, one of the things is that you'll just respawn in place after you die, because it wouldn't make sense to do it any other way when there's 2 players. So yeah, this is rather extensively hacked. And that player is now out of the game. Unfortunately, the little bit of music at the start and everything else is cut out. Again, maybe there just wasn't ROM space for it. Or they just felt they had to for it to play correctly. But see, only the green player is left now. Pac family. You learn a lot, are you, Sean? I'm glad to hear that. It's always sort of what I aim for with these things is something informative. But yeah. Look, I pressed the directional button and suddenly I've got a second Pac-Man up there, even though the second player isn't in the game anymore. This is what I mean by bugs in this version of the game. And I'm fairly sure this would happen on hardware as well. It doesn't appear to be especially well programmed. So it's one of those that people sought after for a long, long time, because obviously 2-player simultaneous Pac-Man, who wouldn't want that? But the end result is somewhat underwhelming. I think all the cutscenes are gone too. Yeah, I am just controlling the characters mostly together at the moment. However, it's really, yeah, it's fascinating to see what some of the people hacking these things up back in the day, especially in places like Argentina, where it's not really known for their arcade games. You know, fascinating to see what they did. Yeah, an interesting bootleg that had been avoiding emulation for 20 years, exactly. I mean, now it is emulated, we can see the limitations of it and how it is just about as buggy as that club Pac-Man thing that was emulated a bit before. For all I know, it could be the same people who hacked them up. They're both from Argentina. But yeah, it's emulated. It was emulated over the course of the year. I always tempt to say last. There we can see the other Pac-Man's at the top again for no good reason. Even though that Pac-Man's meant to be dead, that Pac-Man is now at the top of the screen and I can move them left and right. Because, yeah, why not? Unless it's a protection. It could be a protection that's not emulated, but I don't know. It clearly still knows that Pac-Man's dead because I can clear the maze with that. Yeah, you see some of the start positions are slightly inside the walls, but again, that's just how it is. Oh, look, there we go again. Hello. Hello, dead. And this is meant to be like a secret bonus feature, but it looks really silly. Yeah, I mean, you like the two-player Pac-Man club hack because of the music. I probably need to actually look at that one a bit. I mean, it's still full of bugs. You can get stuck in the walls and everything in that one. I think, yeah, I mean, they were quite ambitious as hacks go, but I don't really think they're going to be emulation bugs. It'd be a bit difficult, in my opinion, for them to be emulation bugs. Yeah, there's not much else to say about it. It's a simultaneous two-player Pac-Man hack, which is fun for a little while, but ultimately kind of broken, but properly emulated. What shall we pull up next? I don't know if this is going to work. Will it work? Will it not? I do. I'm on the wrong view though. Bring up the FM Towns Marty. I've not tested this one before, so I don't know what's going to happen. I should play the last one with Evie. Unfortunately, Evie's not here right now, so she might be in the chat, but she's not here in person. Right, okay. So I believe Shadow of the Beast 2 on the I've got it on turbo speed on the FM Towns Marty is one where there was some graphical fixes. So if we just start to play it, yeah, there are no proper tools available. It would have been much more difficult to hack things then than it was now. So okay. But yeah, the FM Towns Marty and the X68000 are two Japanese systems, popular systems for good games, that saw a lot of things improved over the course of the year. That baby's still crying less than when I hold a baby. Yeah, Shadow of the Beast games aren't very good, are they, Carlo? They were sort of tech demos, unfortunately. Was the fruit replaced by the other Pac-Man? Yeah, lots of things like that were taken out. So, yeah, apparently this was really quite glitched before, and now does run okay. I still don't like the game. Never liked the game. But a lot of people did. I still see people, you know, say, oh, it's not that bad, it's still a pretty good game today. But it's just a learn by trial and error, very stiff platformer type game where, I don't know, you can easily just get yourself into situations you can't win. It's very much a Euro platformer. I don't know. I don't know why anybody likes it personally. Yeah, the Amiga looks better. I can't read Japanese, so I don't know what you're telling me, but okay. By continue, I guess it means, do you want to go back to the start? Manic Miner is alright. I mean, Manic Miner, unless you're talking about the Game Boy Advance version of Manic Miner, which they broke in horrible ways. We could play some of these together, yes, Evie. I don't know when, but that would definitely be something to do in the future. Not this, though. Don't think anybody wants to play this on their own. Okay, you're here now, are you? Well, I'm not going to go right up to you again because I know what happens. So it wasn't the start I went to before, it was right where I was, really. Now, I don't know why there's no music playing. I would have thought there'd be music, but apparently there's not. Maybe that's a bug. But before, the sprites were quite glitched and it was a bit of a mess, this one. And obviously now it renders properly. It looks as it meant to, but as mentioned in the chat, it doesn't look as good as the Amiga version. It's not got all the fancy effects. And the game was only ever about the fancy effects rather than the gameplay in the first place. I'm going through a very small door. What was my reaction to the meme hack of DoDonPachi SaiDaiOuJou that works in MAME? I think it harms trust in the dumping community because unless it was a bootleg on the board that was dumped from that state, it means that, you know, somebody is creating fake and quite advanced hacks, and that ends up meaning it's, you know, you doubt any other dumps that might come from them or that direction or in general. So that type of sort of silly prank is kind of what I thought we were past, and since then people have obviously removed some of the hacks and messed it up even more. I don't know. I was going to look at that later. I might still look at that later. The music cuts off on real hardware too. Yeah, maybe it just wasn't very well tested. I don't know. The problem is it's a Japanese version and I don't speak Japanese and I don't remember the game well enough to actually have memorised any of it. But yeah, I just wanted to show off some of the visual fixes. SaiDaiOuJou. Happens after you speak to somebody. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the character speech is CD audio because there seems to be a delay in it playing. I don't know, I've not checked. It feels like one of those CD spin delays, but anyway, that's Shadow of the Beast 2 on the FM Towns. It has improved over the year, and you know, it's worth showing because if you've not used the FM Towns emulation since before this year, then you've probably missed out on quite a lot of fixes, including that one. So we've got a bit of Sonic. Probably not the Sonic you're expecting. A bit of... Ooh, let's make this bigger. We can make this a lot bigger. A bit of JPM Impact Sonic. But this is still marked as not working. Is it? Oh, something. There's a red screen. Why was there a red screen? So, it's a fruit machine. The option screen says CD speech. Not that Sonic Aussie guy, no. This Sonic. You can't see what I'm pressing, but... Oh, you can see what I'm pressing. There is an on-screen cursor. So let's put 35, 36, 37, 38 pounds into this thing. We can turn it up a bit. It's quite quiet. So this is a British fruit machine. It is the Sonic the Hedgehog one that JPM put out. And... yeah, since I've not played it recently, it's probably got no NVRAM, which means it probably thinks there's no money in it. Which means I'm probably not going to get much out of it. So it's going to take a while before it actually starts wanting to even give me any features. Oh. There we go, a bit of Sonic music. But no board feature yet. Oh. Oh. not giving me the trail option yet. Bonus. There we go. There we get trail. Get a bit of Sonic music. Again, the real unit is heavily themed around Sonic. Sonic graphics, Robotnik graphics. Let's do a skill stop. Do a super hold. I didn't really want a super hold. Zoom along. Real skill. 12. Get a bonus ring. Let's move on. Move on again. Zoom. And game over. Yeah, this was fully licensed, Pietro. Sega did give JPM a license to do this. It's a proper official Sonic machine. These UK fruit machine companies got a lot of proper licenses actually. You find all sorts of well-known IPs, movie tie-ins and other things on them. Some of them, there's a lot of knockoff ones too, where they just sort of pay a nod to the movie. But yeah, the Sonic one was properly licensed. There were properly licensed Pac-Man ones. There's even meant to be a Mr. Do one that's never been found. Yeah, this is basically a slot machine. A Sonic-themed one. And this was, say, this JPM Impact system was improved last year. So we go back on the board. There's lots of little mini games around the board. I could collect £1.20 if I wanted. I don't want so. Real skill is 9. Loop the loop. See, that's. We do the loop the loop feature, which spins around the loop there. And I can collect £1, 20, 40, and then I got £2.40 out of the loop the loop feature there on the board. And that's the thing, there's all these little features like the loop the loop feature, the supersonic feature, and that's how these things worked. You can see it's not thrilling, but if you like this type of thing, some of these are well-known ones, so you can hold, spin them. You know, I think MAME needs to emulate a lot more of these aren't emulated, because the author of one of the main slot machine emulators unfortunately did pass away last year, so a lot of the progress has been left in limbo, and so it's impossible for anybody to work on the newer stuff now. So unless, you know, MAME starts to make some big improvements, it's going to be tricky. Things might start to get lost again. I mean, a lot of these fruit machines are already lost because while there might be ROMs, partial dumps for some of them, you can't find any information on them or pictures of them or anything, and you obviously need to create the artwork. You need to know what things are meant to light up, and a lot of them, you know, they might have had their little couple of years stint in the arcades. They weren't popular, they just got thrown away and replaced with more popular machines, and a lot of them at risk. So it's always good to see some of the emulators, some of the platforms supported better. And while, yeah, that's one of the more popular ones that isn't so much at risk, and people still operate those ones today, it's progress, and it's progress from this year. So, yeah, people do want to make home slot machine cabinets, and, you know, there's a big scene over those machines where they look after them as well as any classic arcade machine, restore them and everything else. They're really actually popular. And traditionally, the emulation scene around them has been a bit bad. I mean, closed source, hacked up versions of using hacked up MAME cores. It's all a mess. So it's one of those where I hope going forward we do see more in MAME itself. People putting the effort to improve them and help with them, help the emulation. Anyway, yeah, let's have a look at some old arcades now. Warp 1 from Sun Electronics is one of a pair of Sun Electronic games that was emulated over the course of the year. So, again, this is a very simple, early... I want to say crosshair shooter. It's not really much of a crosshair shooter, but I guess technically that would be the genre. Space shooter. It's very simple anyway. No sound emulation, unfortunately. It's discrete circuits like so many of these early ones. Yeah, it's a proto style. Oh, there's some sound. Sorry, didn't think I probably got the samples. Probably got the samples actually, haven't I? Yeah, I've got the samples installed. There's no sound emulation. There's only samples. You can kind of tell because the samples don't sound anywhere as good as proper emulation of the netless device would. Got to try and blow up the mines there before they hit the bottom. The radar is just a count of how many lines left. It's joystick based, so you've got no analog movement of the crosshair. It's all very simple. The sounds are the same as Die 3 Waku Sai. Yeah, that's probably what sample set I've got installed then. You've got the smart bar and it blows up all the enemies on screen. Ideally, it does need tracing out and emulating as a netless device, in which case it will sound a lot like Windows now. I missed one. And, your fuel is a number of lives, so again, it's kind of representing common things in an unusual way. Like the enemy counter is presented as a radar when it really it's just a counter. Fuel is 1 and it's game over. Turn the sound down. Oh, is it a bit loud? You don't like explosions. I believe Sun Electronics became Sunsoft, yes. Pietro. This was distributed in Japan by Gifu, Tokai and Taito. Netless device is a simulation of the individual components on the PCB that make up the sound circuits. Sort of it identifies a set of components that link together. A network, as such, of a network of components that make sounds. Yes, we should look at those 3D games, shouldn't we? I can't remember if I've got the controls configured for Midnight Run, so that'd be fun. As you can see, there's not really much to this, but it's a sort of late 70s game. It's kind of what you expect in a late 70s game. In fact, it's maybe a bit better than a lot of late 70s games. That's quite a nice little Starfield effect. But it's not really much to the gameplay, as you can tell. The samples are just samples recorded from one of the boards, I guess. They're not very well recorded now. Netlist can be used for non-sound stuff as well. Yes, there are some netlist video implementations, I think, although it tends to be a bit slow for such use cases. But it has been done. I think that's Warp 1. Again, very rare game. Glad to see it emulated. A bit early in terms of, you know, being a game that I'd want to personally spend too much time with. A lot of the time with the netlist stuff is there are components that aren't going to be emulated, so even with the schematic it's not always easy. I mean, people were looking at Space Panic earlier in the year and it uses components that the netlist system doesn't support yet, so you know they've got a full schematic but can't be implemented yet until those components are added, and that's not easy. So it's always worth having the schematics drawn up and available, though. I mean, it's pretty much essential that they get done while the PCBs are available, because I think eventually somebody will come along to have a look at them, even if the current developers don't do them. But there's always new developers, new people coming along. Say Bob in the chat, I don't think was contributing before doing some of the recent NES stuff. And we've got others in the chat. If Stephen's here, Stephen's been doing a few little fixes. And say Devon was here, who did the Casio keyboard. And again, I think Devon's a fairly recent contributor. So you never know who's going to come along. Anyway, we did say the Konami 3D games. So what was it called? Midnight Run. Now, so the controls might not be set up on this at all, but Midnight Run. Is this the right one? I believe it is. I'm going to turn the volume up here. So hold on. If you just follow the MAME development in general, more fruit, everything's all in one, so if there's any console news it will be covered. So, Midnight Run. How well are my controls set up, if at all? We'll see. We'll see. That's how you play this game, just round people. I'm on manual transmission. I don't want manual transmission. I don't. That's better. Automatic transmission.
Why are you last? You driving Miss Daisy? Wow, that's what I call fast.
So yeah, these didn't really work very well until progress earlier in the year. They did run, but the graphics were really flickery and it was generally quite a mess. So the improvements have really helped make them solid looking playing racing games, and they perform well too. People often criticise the performance of 3D games in MAME, but these ones run easily at 100% with the Ultra Square. Of course I'm no good at them, but that's not the point, is it? Yes, you may have tried to play this in older versions of MAME from years gone by, and while they were somewhat playable, I would definitely not recommend trying it, and they weren't especially stable either. They'd crash in certain situations, and I think that the emulation is now stable and the games don't just randomly crash either. I don't know if I just killed the motorcycle guy, but it didn't sound like it came off the better of that condition. So, run out of time. It might have been dated reference. I mean, I don't get the reference, Bob, so... I think it's very jerky. It's running at full speed. Yeah, it's a little bit obnoxious in the sound department, isn't the announcer? So, what was the other game? Was it Winding Heat? I think it was Winding Heat, wasn't it? If we're doing these Konami 3D races. Oh, Driving Miss Daisy was a movie that had just come out. Just come out when?
Select course. Intermediate course. Select car.
I want to be the yellow one
Select tuned car.
with good acceleration. I don't know why it lets you choose the car, then you just customise them to the point where I think they're basically kind of the same anyway. But maybe I'm wrong. Obviously this one starts with the third person perspective, over the shoulder type behind view, whatever you call that. Behind view, over the shoulder. Whereas the other one was sort of more bumper view. Tend to slide across the road as well. I mean, physics aren't the best. Overall, you can kind of see why these were never super popular games compared to the likes of Daytona. But still, if you want a 3D racing experience, you could do worse. I'm sure with a proper steering wheel while they're trying to play gamepad, they'd be a lot better as well. This doesn't have such an annoying now, so to its credit. Yeah, I mean the visuals hold up all that, I think, for early 3D. It looks better than a PlayStation. No warpy polygons or anything. Yes, if you crash, sometimes you do just go through things but lose all your speed. Just kind of feel a bit like a 2D game presented in 3D, where it wouldn't look so bad if, you know, something passed straight through you after you collided with it, whereas in 3D it looks a little bit odd. Now, if you want to see these played properly, there are plenty more videos of YouTube on people who have played them since the emulation was fixed earlier in the year, and therefore get a better idea of them rather than just me playing it really badly. Vil didn't develop the game, he improved the emulation more for it. I don't remember anybody ever saying that Bob driving Miss Daisy thing, but it might just be something I never picked up on. So that was another one of them, and another one of the Konami 3D games. So there's a bunch of them. We'll have a look at one more while we're looking at them, and that is Solar Assault, which I'm hoping is also still configured. I think Ridge Racer works fine if you've got the right controls. The issue you're talking about was a problem in the previous Viva No emulator, because it HLE'd the entire physics engine. But I've seen people play Ridge Racer in MAME with the proper sliding and everything. So this is maybe somewhat more impressive than the racer games. This is sort of Gradius in 3D. In fact, you know, the Japanese versions, at least the original non-revised version, does even have Gradius as part of the subtitle. For some reason that was dropped, I think, for the US versions, the revised version. Originally this was considered, you know, part of the Gradius series. See, it's a two-screen 3D shooter. A little bit like, say, Galaxy Force, Galaxy Star Fox, that type of game. Change views as well at the start. boss. 3D games would be better on MAME than other languages. I guess that's it's quite a subjective thing. A lot of people don't like playing PlayStation games without the enhancements that the emulators offer, but I do like to see them as they're meant to be, which MAME tries to offer. Now, I did remember to turn continues without restarting the stage on my sales mode this time. If doing things right again. Well, the weak point is doesn't come shooting. Plays like the Famicom Disk System Falcon. Did I play Falcon before? Famicom Disk System at this point. I'm sure Bob can tell you it's a little bit problematic. Yes, please insert. See, no stage restart because you're changing the service mode. I think it must have automatic power usage settings. Just use powers. Don't crash into the box. It's quite nice. So this is where it gets very Galaxy Force with the lava creatures diving out like the lava stage in Galaxy Force. Moving into the fire. The shader isn't perfect. Now I think there's still a PR open to improve the shader. It's always going to be difficult to get the shaders perfect. It does look. And also the scaling of the shaders probably looks a bit bad on stream sometimes, especially with fast moving things. Scan lines, stuff, scale. It's not always easy to get right on stream. Hits during that time, isn't it? If it times out, it's when it starts stays there. There's the times out. Oh, that was easier than I thought. Hard to hear me over the music. It's one of those, is it? It's not actually shown as that loud in the meters, but sometimes it doesn't. Stage 3 curse, not the Mega Drive shooter curse. But yeah, prior to this year, this game was not stable. It would crash in places, and there were a lot of visual problems that have now been fixed. So again, this is kind of one of the important bits of progress from 2021. I did cover it at the time, but it's one that's worth highlighting. Probably going to move on shortly because we are 2.5 hours in and there's still more to cover. To be fair, we're not going to cover everything in one stream. But you know, a lot of people will say nothing happens in MAME these days, and yeah, it's been a quiet year in some senses for emulating new arcade games, but there have been quite a lot of improvements and other little bits and pieces. Lots of UI improvements, localization improvements, under the hood improvements too. It's been a busy year, even if you know there aren't many must-have highlight of the year arcade machines improved or newly supported. I was kind of hoping maybe something like System 10 emulation would happen over the course of the year, but it didn't, and I'll have to keep hoping for another year. What was I hoping for? I was hoping to fix Speed Racer, as I mentioned earlier, but again, defeated me, I was hoping to make some plug and play progress on some of the newer systems, and didn't get time to look at it. But this, again, I do like my shooters, and while I'm not always a fan of 3D ones, if you've not played this, you should probably have a look at it. There's a Mega Drive shooter called Curse, and one of the stages on this was called Curse, so I was just making reference to the Mega Drive shooter. It's not related in any way. There we go, stage 4, Abyssal Forest. Once I die here, I'm going to move on, because I don't spend too long on anyone. Obviously 3D just looked bad, yes. And we will not continue. Now this game over. Curse annoys you. Yeah, I seem to remember Curse has a really bad frame rate as well. Not played it in a while. So, maybe look at some bad stuff. TV board games. These are terrible units based on some ELAN system on a chip with awful sound. It has Simon in it. If you ever wanted Video Simon. So there we go. This audio emulation is not perfect, as you can tell. Again, I'm not an audio emulation expert, so I don't really know how to improve it. And I pressed it wrong, and there you go. It's a video version of Simon. You don't need to play again. There's a battleship. Where I can place my ship. Can't remember how to place my ship. Oh, okay. That's how. Oh yeah, you play. Okay. This is probably worse than Super Battleship on the Mega Drive. The air on this is really bad, and there's no difficulty levels, so basically you usually win. You have to really try hard to not win on this, basically. Even if it's just signed versus unsigned. I don't think it is. Oh, they got one of my battleship pieces. Oh. They got another one. It will at least go for the different parts of your ship once it knows where your ship is. Go. Oh, I found a bit of a second one too, which I thought I had. The graphics in this game, in the Genesis game, make your eye bleed. These ones not. You still think the Mega Drive game is even worse? You don't think I ever had a Simon? I don't think I ever had a Simon either. As iconic as they were, I think it was a little bit before my time. Their popularity. But yes, I spent my time earlier in the year emulating these TV board game things, and Was it worth it? I don't know. I'm glad they're emulated. They're some of the cheapest plug and plays you can get, and they're cheap for good reason. Oh, look, I found another enemy ship. I don't think we need to play out the game. You know how it works. Okay, it's not. You had a Merlin though, which was even earlier. I don't know what. I think Merlin's emulated in MAME. I've never tried playing it. Anyway, it's Battleship. There's a bunch of these. There's even like Mousetrap and even worse Candyland in one of them. And Candyland requires no skill. It is just roll the dice and hope for the best. So go back to arcade. And we've got Getaway, a game by Universal. Considered to be, I think, the first 16-bit arcade game from 1979. It uses a TMS 9900 or 9990, or however you want to say it. Which, yeah, is a technically a 16-bit processor. It's why the TI 9940, or is it, can say it's a 16-bit machine, even though it's got the same VDP as an MSX. I think again we're dealing with no sound emulation, and the game is, yeah, it's a Monaco GP clone. But this was also emulated during the year the year that's almost just gone. It's not the end of the year yet. And it's a very rare Universal game. Obviously Universal better known for Mr. Do, and not so well known for Miss Dynamite, which we played earlier. But like many, they started off by doing things like Monaco GP clones, Space Invader type clones, until sort of they found their thing with the cutesy type of Mr. Do games, I guess, and some other space shooters. Oops, we've hit the side and we're blowing up. That was bad. I hit the side straight away. A 16-bit machine with 8-bit data bus. I can't quite remember. I just know it's none of them feel like 16-bit machines, but they were billed as such. Obviously, never quite gained the popularity of the Z80 and proper 8-bit or an actual 8-bit processor, which they would probably wanted you to have considered inferior, and didn't compete with proper 16-bit CPUs like the 68K. It's nice and colourful with all the different coloured cars. I mean, as Monaco GP clones go, this one's not actually too bad. It's not got all the features you might expect. It's a little bit basic, but it's colourful, and it does what it needs to do. It doesn't seem to have any road narrowing or headlight effects, unless they're just not emulated, but I think it's just quite a simple game, to be honest. The video chip was made for the TI 9940, yeah, and then it ended up on a lot of different things. But, I mean, there's some interesting software on the 9940. But it's never one I spent much time with. I think it's got a fun port of Robotron from what I remember playing of it. But anyway, so there's not much to show with this. It is just car, go along road, avoid other cars, avoid smashing into the side. And there's sort of icy patches like this where you can't control it very well. Much as we saw icy patches in the Cats game. And the faster you go, the further up the screen you go. So you see I'm going really fast now. I don't know if you can get to the top of the screen. Maybe that's when you get to do something different. No, that's as high as it's going to let me go, isn't it? Well, I've got 44 seconds left. Well, not seconds, they seem a bit fast for seconds. Unless the whole game is running too quickly, but I don't know. Again, another one with no sound emulation, unfortunately. Presumably, once more discrete circuits are involved here. The TI chips were also used for some of the fruit machines, interestingly enough. Not quite sure why, but again, they're not emulated properly, those fruit machines. And the problem is not that many people understand the TI chips either, the TI-99. So finding somebody who understands the TI chips and has an interest in fruit machines enough to improve the fruit machines that use them is a bit tricky. And a lot of those fruit machines, I think, also have real MCUs and the like that are a bit annoying. So you can't just take damage in this, and in some positions like the front there, I think you can take more than one hit, you see, until you smash it up. Although head-on collisions are bad. Apparently I'm still going. Anyway, let's get away. Bit simple. Run off the road and catch fire. That's very realistic, isn't it? Yes, good. That's very realistic. Similar to NES Road Fighter. Yeah, it's just another early game, isn't it? Okay. Don't think we're going to have time to do a proper play of this, but it does get asked about. This is another recent fix. I think it'll be in the next release. Galco's Thunder Hoop. Now this has been badly emulated in MAME for many years. It's very loud. Pardon me. Now, the most obvious thing you'll notice in terms of the fixes is actually the priorities. Also, if you think it's running a bit slow, that is because it does now run at 57 Hz, which is the correct speed as, you know, we've compared it to PCB videos. And the reason it was crashing on level 4 before is because the protection check is based on it checking the speed the game is running at. If you set the game to 60 Hz, it fails protection checks and then crashes on the fourth boss. Well, not the fourth boss, the fourth level after you beat the third boss. If you die. But, since it's set to 57 Hz now, not 60, the protection check it does on the second boss now passes, and it doesn't crash when you're down level 4 as a result. But the other thing you'll notice is the priorities here are now fixed for, you know, pretty much the entire time. 14 years or so it's been in MAME. People have asked when are those going to be fixed, and the answer is 2021. The priorities are now correct, and the priorities are used in multiple places around the game. So it's, you know, it's a worthwhile fix. It improves a lot of little bits you might not have noticed. The most obvious is those platforms at the start there, but then there's various places where you go behind bits of scenery, and these enemies there behind the gates, they were wrong before. They're correct now. I'd say I can't play this all the way to level 4 because that would take about half an hour the amount of times I die, and I'm not going to save states. And as mentioned earlier, if you use a level skip cheat, it bypasses the protection anyway, which is kind of sneaky, but I guess that's why they put the checks on multiple levels, to catch bootleggers out. If the bootleggers were to try and, you know, hack their way to a different level, you know, it works fine. No protection. You have to play through all the levels in order for it to trigger the protection. Yes, you do have to be patient with these things. A lot of times bugs aren't fixed until sort of 20 years after something's initially emulated. It is unfortunately how these things go. Now, I did used to be able to complete the first stage of this without dying, like last week. But again, I've not played it in about a week, so that's how quickly I become bad at games. Run away. The board didn't run at 60 Hz, and they knew the board didn't run at 60 Hz, so they put it in as a protection check to stop bootleg boards that ran at 60 Hz running the game properly, I guess. It's very strange. You know, any main build that still hacks things to 60 Hz is going to still fail on this game because they'll still fail the protection, so you do have to run it at 57.4, otherwise you'll lose the progress. Another place the priority is used for this boss, the boss will be over the tube if the priorities are wrong. You can sometimes finish off the boss before it even does the whirlwind attack. Yeah, all those YM FM Music 2 slow bugs, that's what I looked at the start of the stream. We started with The Simpsons, Bob. But yeah, a lot of the YM fixes over the year as well. That's one of the big things from the year, are the general YM fixes, which maybe I've not touched on enough. But yeah, Thunderhoop now has better priorities and doesn't crash as long as you don't, you know, decide to hack the frame rate back to 60 Hz, in which case it will crash again. And there's a reason it is now set to 57.4. So, you know, don't be that person who hacks it back then reports it as a bug. Anyway, Thunderhoop. So, yeah, YM FM stuff. I mentioned this before. I think is it Micro Machines 96 that has the horn? I can't remember. I think it was 96. Apparently I'm running the... I really should run it on the right driver. Because that's the way the hardware was designed, Carlo. I mean, you know, the components they use produce a refresh rate that's not quite 60 Hz. The arcade monitors sync to it, they don't really care. So I'll turn this up a bit because it's quite quiet. And as long as I've got the right game here, I think I've shown this before. Horn effect. You can hear it when I press space, it does a horn. Previously the horn effects in these Micro Machines games didn't play. And that's one of the many things Aaron's FM rewrite has fixed. Other than now being, you know, BSD licensed rather than GPL. Which means it's easier for companies to use because they're not required to open the source to the files just for using the FM cores, which, you know, puts a lot of companies off using the files otherwise because a lot of consoles, the SDKs and the like, don't allow you to use GPL code. So MAME's code for the FM emulation can be used in more places now. Obviously I finished last. Second? Got to finish last. And this sort of, it's a bit of a novelty. You don't even have to use the horn. I don't think it does anything, to be honest. But it is now emulated. I think it's in all the Micro Machine games, apart from Military, which has the weapon button instead of a horn. Obviously Micro Machines is a great game. I think it should be an arcade game. I think that if we're ever doing a stream of home games that should have been in the arcades, then Micro Machines is definitely one of those near the top of the list to me. Perfect multiplayer action. And something a bit different to, say, Sega's Hot Rod or the other multiplayer car games, racing games. But anyway, I'm not sure in terms of hardware, Pietro. No, sync refresh doesn't change the internal refresh rate, Sean. It just causes MAME to run a little bit faster rather than changing any of the internal timing. So sync refresh won't break it. I think the way RetroArch does it might still break it, because I think that does, or at least it used to, in some of the older cores, hack the refresh rate to 60 rather than speeding it up. I don't know if it still does. But MAME sync refresh should be fine. What else are we going to look at? There's plenty still to look at. Let's just look at a clone I didn't expect to see. It's not really much in the way of progress, but I was quite surprised to see a USA version of a Buster turn up. So there you go. Winners don't use drugs. You don't use drugs. There's one word. Not as bad as the winners don't use drugs screen that's given away in Warrior Blade. It says winners don't use drugs. Which might be why Warrior Blade can get released outside of Japan. Yeah. They Fuki weren't a big company, so to see a localised version of this, even if it's only, not the most tasty, heavily localised, is quite interesting, because I wouldn't have expected them to bother. The copyright date is a year after the other than it's going to be very loud, isn't it? The copyright date is a year after the other version. But yeah, I wouldn't have expected a small developer like Fuki to have localised the game at all. Yeah, I noticed, Bob. I've turned it down again. That's the problem whenever I run Mega Drive, is Mega Drive's really quiet. So I have to turn it to maximum. So yeah, an English version of Ashura Buster was added last year. And this is a really good fighter from, a relatively unknown developer. Looks great, smooth animations. I feel the combo system and everything else. Well, as a casual player, at least, maybe as an expert player, opinions would be different. I think I missed. Carly thinks this one's a great game. I think I prefer the prequel a little bit more over this one, but definitely not aware of the prequel having the localization. But then again, until this year, I wasn't aware of this one having the localization. So you really never know what's going to show up. And there's quite a few examples of that. I mean, there's a bunch of English clones showed up over 2021. Armadillo Racing, for example, and Magical Twinbee. I've probably not got time to look at those this time. Don't think there's enough time, enough content for another 3-hour stream of progress either. But with Micro Machines, we're just showing off the horn sound. Yeah, true, because prior to Aaron's FM core rewrite, that didn't play in MAME, and there's lots of little cases where the sounds are missing in games using the Yamaha sound, the FM cores. So good to see them fixed, and nice to have it more freely licensed too. Makes it easy for people that want to make use of MAME legitimately, which is kind of important these days with the number of retro compilations coming out. And we don't want people to be having to use terrible replacement sound cores because they can't use the proper MAME ones. And that's happened with a few of them. Either they've done their own sound cores, or got somebody else to do them, and they've just not been as good, or they've just ended up using the ones they wanted to use. Yeah, I'm guessing this is one of those games that's never going to see a proper re-release again, because unless somebody with the IP is actively trying to license it out for modern releases, this one might just be one you're only going to see in MAME. But I could be wrong, you never know. There are a few games I feel like that with, about... so I'd love to see Nix's Pirates released on a modern compilation, but, you know, I doubt anybody can track down the people who can actually license that. Own the IP. With the bigger companies, at least you usually know who owns the IP in some of the Korean games. No idea who owns the Fuki stuff. No, I mean, maybe Aussie Guy knows. Aussie Guy knows quite a few of the license holders. But even with the big companies, a lot of the stuff gets split up, and it's a shame. Another thing, you know, I'd love to see a modern re-release of a lot of the Deco cassette games. Well, does the same person own all the IP, or you know, would something like Peter Pepper's Ice Cream Factory be split up, being Burger Time related? And so is it G-Rev owns some of them? G something. Not G, maybe not G-Rev. G-Rev, I don't know. Pico were buying up Person, yeah. I think Pico owned the Unico stuff. G-Mode, that's the one. G-Mode and the Data stuff. I don't know who owns the Semicom stuff. That'd be nice to see a re-release of at some point. Well, yeah, there's a lot of these games that, especially the smaller developers, it's going to be very difficult to ever find who owns them now. I remember it being mentioned that Unico IP is owned by Pico now when I was doing Master's Fury. This is now reminding me of Wacky Wacky 7 on the Neo Geo because of the oversized enemy. Yeah, Master's Fury. They own... So I think they own the other Unico stuff. I guess the Korean stuff's easy enough to get hold of if no made it. But yeah, Unico put some good stuff, so I don't think it's worthless. And 0 Point was always a good alternative to Point Blank, and Silk Road is ugly, but actually not terrible to play. Burglar X is sort of funny. Fuki's still around. Oh, interesting. I guess if the company never spent much in the first place, and did games on the side, maybe? Anyway, so that was a USA clone. But say Fuki's interesting in the sense that Go-Go Smile thing they did was quite heavily copied on plug-and-play games. Speaking of which, shall we... Now let's not... I don't know. I kind of want to put an X68K game on, but they take a while to do anything with it. So I'll leave X68K for today. Let's just cover something slightly, maybe lesser known in terms of progress. There are a lot of improvements to the Nitchy Bitchy sounds hookups in MAME over the year. And Mighty Guy is one case where the sound emulation was improved. The music timing on this was all wrong before. It's another one where the sound emulation's been improved, although I'm not very good at the game, so you might not get so much of it. It reminds me a lot of Ikari 3, although obviously it's a bit early. I guess because it's around overheadish beat 'em up. Although obviously this isn't relatively joystick-like Carly. Run, so it's less of a kicking up. It is a bit like Metal Soldier Isaac 2, isn't it, Aussie guy? Yeah, that's a lot of these Nichibutsu games have very distinctive music, and as I said, one of the things that did improve is the emulation of that music. I think Amazon Soldier improved too. Quite a few of the Nichibutsu games of the era. It's also the one where you can infinitely stand above this Australia-shaped rock if you just stay in mid-air. It's infinite jump kick until you land. It's a bit silly. Yeah, outside of the Mahjong games, Nichibutsu did quite a lot of interesting stuff. I don't quite know why they just ended up producing almost exclusively Mahjong games after a while, but maybe just more profitable. As a result, the actual Nichibutsu games that weren't Mahjong often get overlooked. Many of them are quite interesting and fun to play. Name F1 Circus. I mean, that's like a continental circus. I think a lot of the magazines at the time said it was a spelling error, a typo, but I think in Japan it's a legitimate term for F1. I read that, you know, F1 travels around like a circus. It wasn't actually a mistake calling it circus. Yeah, real racing term. At least in Japan, I think it's a real racing term. But all the magazines here for the Continental Circus ports said, "Oh, it's a mistake," and they kept the mistake in the port title. How silly! But I don't think it was ever a mistake. I think it's actually a legitimate term. It's like the whole, you know, old Donkey Kong is a typo. It was meant to be Monkey Kong or Monkey King, but it never was. Like to think things they don't quite recognise or don't fit with their opinion or typos. I think Pico just buy what is available at reasonable prices, which makes sense. You're not going to be paying tons of money for Namco games when Namco want to sell them themselves, and some of the Korean games are pretty good fun. Like I said, I really like the Semicom games, and some of the Unico ones I played a fair bit of. Companies that went bankrupt and their IPs are available fairly cheaply. The final race was indeed a circus. Is that what it is? The final race. Yeah, we've not looked at Monster Zero yet, have we? Okay, that's probably time to have. Okay, we're going to do Monster Zero, and then probably at least one plug and play, and then probably call it. There's plenty I've not done, but these are all things that have improved or been added over, you know, the course of 2021 in MAME, and there's enough to do quite a lot of stream. Especially if I start looking at, you know, smaller fixes and improvements. And this one's quite loud again. Loud monster. Still looks quite loud, but we'll have to see. Yeah, it's still quite loud. So the protection was fixed in 2021 and a new set was dumped before that it was unplayable. And again, I'm a bit out of practice on this. I think I know the first time I streamed this, I started the stream and it did really badly, and then played it again later in the stream and did alright. It's one of those where you sort of build up a memory for the patterns. This is a modified Galaxian type hardware. Doesn't look like it uses much in the way of the advanced features that the modifications provide, but I guess the main focus is that big boss, the Monster Zero, which, as has been mentioned last time, looks a lot like the enemy on the Tempest Flyer. It's the can Hayes make it to the monster game? I'm going to guess no in the limited title. I made it the monster, it's on the title screen. It kind of spoils it, doesn't it? But then again, if it wasn't on the title screen, everybody would just go, it's a generic Galaxian hardware game. It's not very interesting. Having it there makes everybody want to get to the monster. But then you realise the monster is the only big monster, and I don't know. Spoilers, as they say. I'm not complaining too much about the collisions myself, but maybe you're seeing things I'm not. I'm just concentrating on trying to avoid things and not get killed. Unsuccessful. Yeah, maybe the shots do go through things a little bit. I think because maybe their hitboxes are of unusual size. It's Danmaku enemies, not Danmaku player. It's quite a menacing sound effect. Now the fast flashy ones. Some of the bullets are not destroying the enemies. Yeah, I guess the collision boxes aren't the full size of the enemies or something. It's probably like a smaller part of the enemy. It looks like I'm not going to make it to Monster Zero anyway. Right, I was going to look at plug and play. Now let's look at something stupid instead. This will probably not be added to MAME, but this should be in the next HB MAME version. The Cave DoDonPachi SaiDaiOuJou was dumped, but the dump is a strange and Knuckles bootleg hack thing. So, yeah. Where people have made loads of stupid changes, which, as I said, really just destroys the confidence in the dump. Assuming it wasn't on the PCB like this. If the PCB was like this, I'll forgive them. But otherwise, you know, making this kind of hack to dumps and then only making the hacked version available is really bad for confidence in terms of the dumping scene. But there you go. So yes, it's got Hello Kitty in it, and it's got Knuckles in it, and it's got Garfield in it, it's got T-Rex in it, and it's all sorts of stupid.
SaiDaiOuJou. 出撃する機体を選んでください。やっぱり私をね。ドレスを選択派手に決めましょう。
Monster Zero is one of your favourites. Yeah, it seems like a fun little game that I need to play a bit more of as a guy. So yeah, there's this hack that's got like Garfield there and other stuff, and some things change colour. And obviously people didn't really want to play this hack version. So what did they do? They further hacked the hack version. And tried to undo a bunch of the hacks that were made to the hacked version. SaiDaiOuJou. Or SDOJ. Your favourite character is Hello Kitty. So yeah, some of the hacks were removed, except it now says full extent to the jam, because why not? And it's probably not the original art that's been restored. So now there's a hack of the hack. Because why wouldn't you have a hack of the hack? It's kind of stupid, isn't it? I mean, I don't see the point in doing that. And like I say, even that, they've said I think they'll release the proper ROM next year, but then do you trust that not to be hacked too, since they've demonstrated they can apply whatever hacks they want to it? That's kind of my point. It just destroys the entire trust in, you know, the chain of people doing the work. If somebody is willing to put that level of effort into hacking something, how do we know what they put out next is not just going to have more subtle hacks that they've not announced? You can't trust them, and so their entire work becomes basically worthless. Also, I don't really like this game that much. I think it's the weakest in the series. Personally, the HUD's too big. You've pretty much always got all the power-ups, so the screen is always filled with bullets. You don't get to appreciate the backgrounds, although what's there doesn't look that great anyway. I think it's a low point in the series, personally. Is the game that rare? It's not as rare as some of the cave games. The problem is it's really expensive. Like most cave stuff. But yeah, I think HB MAME has added at least the and Knuckles version of the hack. I don't think it's added this version of that hack that's got some of the hacked elements replaced with different hacked elements. All I know is that they've just made a complete mess, which people seem to love to do. Yeah, Zintric was hacked to look like a fake prototype and things like that. And sold as a prototype. I guess you're always going to get certain scenes doing that type of stuff. Although I thought we were past that, and people have grown up a little bit and kind of realised doing that is just going to destroy trust in their work. I don't know. It's a game, you shoot stuff blows up. Let's have a look at something much better. And I don't really mean much better, do I? This is one where I added sound, badly emulated sound, so watch your ears. Recently, I'd really like help with the sound emulation on these, to be honest. These little handheld games, but yeah, you can sort of hear the music now, but it's very crackly. Yeah, these are very simple little handheld games. on hardware that's a lot more powerful than you might expect. It's actually running like I think a 32 megahertz CPU we've estimated it at, but because the design of the hardware is so inefficient, it can just about pump out graphics of this resolution at this speed. But yeah, I'd really appreciate some help with the sound emulation on these, because I'm not a sound emulation expert, and it generates wave sounds depending on the frequency of timers, and then it's got sort of some kind of ADPCM samples, but it doesn't always seem to reset the decoder at the right time, so it ends up clipping and ends up with big DC offsets, and it's a bit of a mess. Oh no, I'm out of fart power. The Western only sequel to Monster Zero, Space Hunter, is still not found. Is it a proper sequel or one of those semi-sequels? There's a lot of things that's still not found, actually. But yeah, so that's Pi Wang. There's plenty more. We can there's some okay basic games in this, to be honest, for what it is, but nothing you actually want to play for any amount of time. I can't see the one I wanted quickly enough. Let me quickly look. There's ones with Sonic music which I wanted to bring up, but I can't find them. I'll save your ears anyway and turn it off. Anyway. I think we'll end things with one last plug and play, maybe. Let's have a look at the Jack's Pacific X-Men one. Hey Dink, welcome. I hope you're doing well. You are joining right at the end of the stream, but it's always good to see you. How are things going? Yes, the Ashens experience. Ashens did do reviews of some of the earlier versions of those machines. Unfortunately, a lot of them don't have the internal ROMs dumped, or don't have dumps at all. So, which game do we want? I think it was the game. Yes. So this one is a little maze game. So you've got to try and kill the robots when they're not looking at you. You're always catching the end. Yeah, unfortunately, you know, if it wasn't a Friday night, I'd keep on streaming. But you know, I want to check out what Zypho's doing for his Christmas stream, and that started at 9, and usually by about 9:30 there's actual games being played. So I'm already a bit late. But yeah, this X-Men plug and play is actually a really good one, and I didn't play much of it last time. Now the dump we have is from a prototype version, not the release version, but it's probably the same. But it does get a little bit trickier, and it's a well-programmed little maze game where you've got to strategically sneak up on the enemies and attack them from behind. You can't just run in front of them because that will kill you. And it gets trickier. End up with more to it. So you've got sort of a dash move, which might come in handy from time to time on later levels. Oop, ow. Now the mazes do seem a bit seem to be randomised. As you saw that I died and suddenly it's a different maze layout, but that is how the game is. You can call your helper character there with this special move and they can do some stuff for you, and there we get a warning. So it's just like a more difficult enemy. I think this one's only vulnerable from the back, not the sides. There we go, you see. So that one you couldn't shoot from the side, you had to shoot from the back. And it keeps doing the same, but getting progressively more difficult. I mean, end of the day, these, you know, they're aimed at a fairly young audience, but this one does offer better gameplay than many of them. Looks like a semi-sequel up to Monster Zero, that one you mentioned, Aussie guy. Parallax scrolling background music and different boss. Yeah, so they just reworked it a bit for a different audience. I do like these simple maze games that run some of these plug and plays. And this is one of them. So there are a whole bunch of other games on this plug and play, but the maze game is the one we'll be looking at now, because this is the one a lot of people ask about and remember playing. Nothing especially complex about it, but still. Doesn't mean it's not fun. I think I prefer the SpongeBob one that was emulated recently, and there might be time to have a quick look at that actually. But, the thing with a lot of these is, it would have helped if they sort of had a hard mode. Maybe there was a hard mode that I didn't select actually. They're a little bit easy, but the art's often good. Some atmospheric music, even if it's a very short loop. The last thing I need is an extra life right now. I've not really died much. Anyway. So yeah, there's that, and we'll finish on one other plug and play. Which was emulated over the course of the year, and that is Jellyfish Dodge. This is a SpongeBob one, and yeah, I might do a bit of a follow-up stream if there's time, because there are some arcade games I've not looked at and fixes, just little things like, you know, the Shock Rider fix or the mechanized attack priorities or the Cyclone Reboot controls, things like that, Ixion that we looked at before, the priorities and that. So yeah, Jellyfish Dodge. The main game is Jellyfish Dodge. I did a video on this, so I'll continue. I've been playing it already. You see, you have to gillette 2 jellyfish and avoid the other stuff. So where's the other one? The other one's up there. And get to the exit. There we go. So this is another Jack-specific plug and play, and in some sense it's a little bit disappointing. I think I said that before, because some of the games on it are just... Sorry, I've selected the same level again. Some of the games on it are just the same as on previously released game keys, but this is the main game on it. This is pretty good. If you hit the jellyfish, you fail. Some of the levels on this are actually quite challenging, and again, the art's really well done. It ties in perfectly to the show. So I think we can't unlock anything else until we've done some more basic levels. So collect 4 golden jellyfish. So they're not on the screen yet, we have to wait for them, I think. There they come on. Oh, we got stung. There we go. yeah, it's a fun little game. I think this is one that I can say that if I was a kid, I would have enjoyed playing this. Some of these I look at and think if I was a kid, it'd be a bit too basic for me. I wouldn't have enjoyed it. This one, yeah, if I had this when I was younger, I would have definitely played this one and had a lot of fun with it. There's a solid concept here. So survive for 40 seconds. The objectives differ on different levels. So in this case, there's these jellyfish coming along, and you dodge them. These are early levels, so the pattern's quite simple. I can get some big hands to whack them with, improve my own survival chances. They leave these lightning trails as well, which is a problem sometimes. Now you do get a number of hits before you die. You don't punch the trails. You get the bubble, which is a shield. So yeah, nothing too complex on these early levels. But well programmed, well animated. It looks good. So I've got another 2 hits before I match it out on this one, so a fairly simple level. And it does save you progress, which is why some of the levels have been unlocked when I started it up, because I played it before. I think when I was recording the video of it. So now you see I can go for this one. This should be a more difficult level because it's high up the list. So survive for 60 seconds, but presumably, you see there's an obstacle now, so I can't go where the obstacle is, which makes it a bit more tricky. And the patterns will get a bit more intense. And obviously there are more worlds and more levels. And it's one that's definitely worth playing. I hope we've covered a good mix of arcade and non-arcade in this stream. I say I could have done all arcade for 3 hours, but these days a lot of MAME isn't really just about the arcades, and I wanted a yearly stream summary of bits and pieces to kind of reflect that. Now, you don't have to collect the golden jellyfish on this level. I think you just get bonus points if you do. So if you're playing for score, you do want to try and get them. Oh dear, I failed with 1 second on the clock. When was this properly emulated? I want to say about 5-6 months ago. It was one of the last things Sean dumped before he went very quiet. So I think it was one of the slightly easier to dump ones, but he did it, and then I've not heard much from him since. But yeah, though they say there was more I could have covered, it would have been nice to say look at some x68K stuff like Overtake, which was really good, we looked at a few times before, or even Atari A800 fixes like the Choplifter fix, or Rolling Extreme, as I said, all the simple things like the Soldam Attract sound hang that's now fixed, or the time limit and progress speed fixes, the mermaid graphical effects. So yeah, I might be able to do a extra little stream on these. Hyper Neo Geo 64 improvements that were made, the Korean Funky Jet Set, some of the other TV board games, Bubble Buster, Runaway, the other Sun Electronics game we've not looked at, Power Up Baseball that I never really managed to play, some of the Sega 2 stuff. There was a different popcorn machine that was dumped and emulated. So there's plenty of stuff that if I do manage to find time to put together another stream, we could look at other Namco games. We could have a look at the older Final Lap games, or the Suzuki games, or Looking Wild. There's quite a few things. The Soldam Track Hang, that was a very simple fix, actually. I can't remember what it was. I think it was just a case of resetting the chips properly. I think it resets the sound CPU in the track mode or something like that. I can't remember. It's a very, very easy little fix when it went in. So if you find where it was fixed in MAME, you probably very easily apply the same fix to FBN. Oh, Paris Dakar, we didn't look at that either. Although I now know that crashes on the 6th level. 3-player version of Ball Boy. Anyway, that's just things for a potential another stream of progress from the year. For this stream, I think we will now be bringing things to an end. So once again, thank you to everybody who's been here. I hope you've seen a few things that have piqued your interest. I've covered a few things that maybe I wouldn't usually cover, like, say, the Casio keyboard. That was fun to play a few Christmas tracks from the demo on, and everything else. But yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sean, Pietro, Bob, Aussie Guy, Dink, Guru, Mess Drivers, Cow, of course, R09, And so everybody who's still here lurking, everybody who's been here earlier. I can't scroll back too far, but yes, it's been good. Nice to see everybody have a chat with themselves. Good little community we had here, and hopefully I'll manage to squeeze in something else in before Christmas. If I don't, obviously happy Christmas, but fingers crossed I will. And I'll see you then. So good night everybody, take care, and I'll catch you around.